Avernus is the first layer of the 9 hells of Baator. Serving as the prime target for any incursion by demon kind, it remains the focal point of the ongoing blood war. Legions of devils continuously patrol its plains, prepared to fend off the waves of demon invaders arriving via the river Styx. This realm, the largest within Baator, contains infernal landscapes with desolate expanses of lava rivers, barren hills, and rugged mountains stretching endlessly. Scaling these peaks or hastening one's pace proves perilous, as sharp crystals of obsidian and quartz protrude from the jagged terrain, posing a threat to clothing and flesh alike. The entire terrain, strewn with rocks and boulders bearing eerie resemblances to tormented visages and creatures, presents a hazardous challenge, difficult to traverse faster than a brisk walk. The desolate wastes of Avernus, coated in rubble, feature bubbling tar pits, treacherous quicksand, lava lakes, and salt flats crafted from the despair of the damned. In the darkened skies of Avernus, fireballs streak erratically, seemingly targeting motion, leaving behind smoking craters and charred remains upon impact. Seekers of passage must find refuge within structures or caves to avoid the inevitable strikes. The noxious air hangs heavy with volcanic ash and pumice from foul fumaroles, while swarms of flies darken the blighted atmosphere. Clouds, agitated with red and black hues, intermittently flicker with orange flames, casting a perpetual blood-red glow, devoid of sun or stars. The river of blood courses through Baator, collecting tributaries from every ravine, brook, and pool, bearing the remnants of countless battles. Nearly every inch of Avernus is cloaked in a crimson veil, strewn with the remnants of bones and viscera, whether infernal, demonic, or otherwise. Like all the infernal realms, Avernus is intersected by the river Styx, with various branches and cascades. Streams, lakes, and rivulets traverse the plains, nourishing the river Styx. Initially bordering the layer, the river has since been relocated to its core, a consequence of relentless Barbazu expansion and domination of gate towns along the layer's periphery. Avernus serves as the gateway to Baator for both the living and the dead, being the most frequented of the 9 hells, given Asmodeus's decree banning portals to other regions. Consequently, souls damned to Baator must pass through Avernus before reaching other layers, leading to its frequent occupation by the minions of other archdevils, such as the Barbazus, who gather the Forsaken, or Imp and Spinagon messengers. This magical prohibition is primarily enforced to thwart any demonic incursion from accessing the deeper layers of hell, compelling them to conquer and assert control over every layer directly above first. Imps are vicious and manipulative fiends that rank among the weakest entities in the infernal hierarchy. They serve as minor devils, distinct from the Barbazu, assigned the task of interacting with mortals to aid and corrupt them as desired by their masters who wish to draw them toward the path of evil. Though imps possess the ability to assume the guise of various animals, their physical forms are diminutive, even smaller than those of halflings. While they display a wide array of colorations, the most prevalent hue among them is a dark shade of red. They navigate the skies with their leathery, bat-like wings, and their tails, equipped with fearsome stingers, are prehensile in nature. Additionally, their horns, small and sharp, twist upon their foreheads. Their fangs gleam white. The psyche of an imp is characterized by its insidious and deceitful nature, deriving pleasure from corrupting mortals through deception and temptation. Imps excel in the art of flattery, manipulating others into performing acts of lawful evil through cunning persuasion, as they lack the imposing presence of their fellow devils. When not actively engaged in corrupting mortals, they indulge in unscrupulous mischief, such as pilfering valuable items. Despite the facade of sycophancy they represent, imps ultimately serve their infernal overlords, viewing their mortal masters as merely tools to be utilized. Simultaneously, their compliance with leaders in hell stems from pragmatic self-interest rather than genuine allegiance. Despite perpetually serving others, be it devil or mortal, imps remain autonomous beings with ambitions that defy their diminutive stature and obsequious demeanor. Like most devils, their true aspiration is to ascend beyond their current status and seize power, and offering them this opportunity is the only means to secure their genuine loyalty, albeit fleetingly. Elevated to positions of authority, their helpful facade dissolves, revealing the despotic tyrants they harbor within. In their natural form, imps engage in combat using their venomous tails, capable of piercing skin and injecting a potentially lethal toxin into their adversaries. Alternatively, they possess the ability to polymorph into various beasts, with individuals typically favoring one or two forms. These alternate forms mimic ordinary animals, but still enable imps to utilize their venom, albeit delivered through the animal's bite. Common animal transformations for imps include spiders, rats, boars, ravens, and goats, although in raven and goat form, they forfeit the ability to administer venom. Whether in their original form or transformed into animals, imps retain their array of magical abilities. They can turn invisible at will, detect magic or goodness, and once per day, utilize the suggestion spell. Remarkably resilient creatures, imps possess supernatural healing abilities, along with resistance to fire, cold, poison, magic, and electric-based attacks. Only silver or enchanted weaponry proves effective against them. When serving as familiars, imps confer certain advantages upon their masters by sharing their power. A telepathic connection forms between the two within a mile's distance, enabling the caster to share the imp's senses, including infravision, and enhancing the master's spellcasting abilities. Proximity to the imp also grants the master access to its regenerative capabilities and magical resistance. Conversely, separation from their master weakens imps beyond their usual state, and the imp's demise could significantly diminish their master's abilities. As familiars, imps possess the ability to seek counsel from archdevils, contacting them to pose up to 6 questions akin to the commune spell. The bond between an imp familiar and its master is forged through a contractual agreement, with any breach resulting in the imp retracting its services and associated benefits. Despite their resilience, imps are timid creatures that engage in combat only when absolutely necessary. In battle, they capitalize upon the element of surprise, initially turning invisible or assuming animal forms. Subsequently, they bide their time, awaiting opportune moments to strike, such as when the enemy is distracted, before swiftly attacking and evading retaliation. They quickly retreat if the tide of battle turns against them, unless their mortal charges are endangered. This apparent loyalty, however, is merely a facade, as imps are primarily concerned with advancing their own agendas and maintaining ties to the mortal realm to secure their path to promotion. While imps can be encountered across the lower planes, they are most commonly found in Acheron, and particularly in Baator. Occasionally they may be encountered in groups, but they are more commonly found in service to other malevolent entities. They are willing to serve any evil master, but cannot always be relied upon to execute their duties swiftly or efficiently. Under the strict governance and vigilant oversight of Baator masters, however, imps dutifully carry out commands to the best of their abilities, often serving as errand runners, spies, or emissaries. Imps fulfill various roles when employed by mortals, serving as advisors, scouts, assistants, confidants, and most importantly, familiars. They typically serve under lawful spellcasters, such as wizards and priests, or individuals seeking magical abilities. Mortals deemed worthy of an imp gain their services upon casting a fine familiar spell, under the mistaken belief that imps are feeble and obedient servants. Lacking the authority to make Faustian bargains, imps rely on persuasion and available resources to expedite the corruption of their targets. By enhancing their summoner's magical abilities, either by aiding in acquiring new spells or magical items, imps stoke a thirst for power within their summoners. Through espionage, hindsight, and knowledge gleaned from other devils, imps amass significant expertise in arcane matters. Upon establishing contact, imps feign servitude to their summoners while clandestinely attempting to manipulate their actions. Imps bound to mortals through deals occupy an inferior position compared to those with the freedom to choose their targets, as individuals willing to summon devils are typically destined for Baator, and the devil orchestrating the deal receives the credit. In such circumstances, imps often strive to corrupt as many souls as possible during their tenure as familiars. While some extend their manipulative services to those in proximity to their masters, others endeavor to sway influential figures to alter society in ways that encourage diabolical acts. Despite being physically inferior to certain lesser devils, the imp rank is coveted, as successfully tempting mortals to perform evil deeds is among the most direct routes to further advancement. For many devils, becoming an imp represents their first opportunity to receive direct recognition for damnation rather than being regarded as a subordinate to another. Thus, being granted the ability to roam freely on the material plane to seek out vulnerable mortals is a highly desirable role, liberating imps from the stringent regulations of hell and allowing them full credit for their endeavors. Souls within the nine hells are not regarded as equal, and corrupting a significant individual can hold as much weight as influencing a multitude of normal souls. On average, around 9 souls are required to qualify for promotion. Imps may also gain promotion through other notable achievements, such as spy work or uncovering traitors. While devils are typically dissuaded from venerating deities by forces of the nine hells, imps may also serve Deep Dwera, the Dwergar goddess, in addition to powerful devils or malevolent spellcasters. They consume any form of meat, whether living or deceased. Though they do not require sleep, imps occasionally rest in their animal forms on the material plane to take respite from their ceaseless duties. While other devils could undergo transformation into imps, they are also created from soul larvae twisted into form by powerful devils. They do not naturally age, and if slain on another plane of existence, they regenerate on their native plane after a year and 1 day. Imps propagate the notion that their lineage comprises a variety of contemporary fiends. They serve as the lawful counterparts to quasits, another diminutive race of fiends that manipulate mortals into committing atrocious acts for power. Various specialized imps exist to fulfill specific functions within hell, such as providing medical care and acting as translators. The patagium of imps is a valuable alchemical ingredient. When the wing membrane is incinerated, it yields ashes that, when combined with particular types of salt to suppress their fiery properties, can create potions of invisibility. Bloodbag imps are a specialized type. They appear bloated due to being filled with blood, almost matching their width with their height, and their delicate semi-translucent skin reveals their internal organs floating within their bodies. While they are proficient in speaking common and infernal languages, their mouths, filled with fangs, can make their speech somewhat challenging to comprehend. Their bites are venomous. Additionally, they exhibit innate magical talents, enabling them to cast Detect Good and Evil, detect magic, and invisibility on themselves only, at will, along with Vampiric Touch once per day. Bloodbag imps also have the ability to regenerate damage at an accelerated rate. One distinctive trait of bloodbag imps is their capability to curse a creature within their vicinity, causing the affected creature to suffer wounds from melee weapons as if those weapons possess the wounding property. This curse can be employed by an imp up to 3 times per day. Interestingly, other creatures can consume the blood of a bloodbag imp to heal themselves, provided the imp consents and remains conscious. Although this action does inflict harm upon the imp, it's not fatal, and the imp quickly recovers. Bloodbag imps were created by devils as a means of healing during combat, especially since most devils lack inherent healing magic. They are encountered throughout the 9 hells. Book imps are diminutive beings conjured from the 9 hells through magic to aid individuals in uncovering ancient arcane secrets. Hovering around their masters incessantly, book imps softly whisper tantalizing arcane secrets from ages past into their ears. While not formidable adversaries, book imps demonstrate agility in combat, teleporting around their opponents and delivering sharp strikes from unexpected angles. They are swift creatures, capable of launching rapid assaults. Additionally, the mere presence of book imps, when under the control of their masters, enhances the summoner's physical and magical capability. Euphoric imps are another specialized subtype. They appear emaciated, with bloodshot eyes surrounded by deep circles. Their bodies bear numerous partially healed puncture marks. They are fluent in the celestial, common, and infernal languages. In combat, they typically rely on their venomous stingers, which deliver a potent and highly addictive hallucinogenic toxin. Additionally, they exhibit proficiency in alchemy. Although they derive pleasure from combat, euphoric imps are characterized by their shiftiness, irresponsibility, and unreliability, largely due to their fondness for consuming their own venom. They distribute their hallucinogenic venom, as well as other alchemical creations, to various inhabitants of the 9 hells. Filth imps, also known as stinkers, represent a repugnant variation of the imp species. These creatures resemble typical imps, but possess yellowish-brown skin encrusted with dried filth. Notably lacking a tail, they are easily distinguished as well by their foul odor. Similar to other imps, filth imps possess the ability to see in both normal and magical darkness, exhibit rapid healing, and can assume 2 other forms at will. They are known to communicate in abyssal, common, draconic, and infernal languages. Filth imps possess the capability to replicate the effects of detect good, detect magic, and invisibility on themselves only at will, along with the ability to cast Stinking Cloud once per day. Additionally, 3 times per day, a filth imp can emit an invisible cloud of noxious gas in the immediate area, inducing sickness in those affected. While the nauseating effects dissipate quickly, the repulsive stench can linger for up to an hour. Furthermore, individuals wounded by a filth imp's claws risk contracting filth fever. Surprisingly, filth imps exhibit proficiency in forgery, translation, and manipulation of codes and ciphers. They typically prefer to taunt and torment rather than engage in direct combat. As malicious and disruptive entities, they may deliberately mistranslate crucial phrases during their work as forgers and translators, causing anguish. They are often found operating as translators and forgers in the material plane, among anyone who can put up with their stench. Spinagons, also known as spine devils, are winged devils resembling porcupines. They deliver messages to more powerful devils, but are often bullied by them due to their perceived weakness. They only torment beings weaker than themselves in retaliation. Considered by most scholars as the highest ranking among the least Baator, Spinagons are deemed lesser devils by a few, including the wizard Mordenkainen. These creatures are the smallest of the Baator, resembling small gargoyles. They have long talons on their hands and feet and are covered in spines. They often carry short military forks or other weapons, adding to their devilish appearance. Their eyes glow red, and they emit high-pitched giggles and shrieks that grate on the nerves of even other devils. To indulge in their desire for torture and torment, Spinagons form flocks to compensate for their small size. As their victims plead for mercy, Spinagons laugh and mock them with a thick, garbled, infernal accent. Despite being relatively weak and cowardly compared to other devils, Spinagons still desire power and advancement. While they are faithful messengers, they can be coerced into revealing their messages and are easily swayed with promises of wealth and power. Their lack of intelligence renders them loyal but limits their effectiveness as agents, as they struggle to distinguish between important and irrelevant information. They do not carry valuables unless specifically instructed, as they do not grasp the purpose of collecting treasures. Spinagons possess the ability to shoot spines from their bodies and tails, which ignite upon launching, burning targets and setting flammable materials ablaze. While some argue they can only shoot about 2 spines every few seconds, others claim the spines immediately regenerate, granting them unlimited ammunition. These spines are rumored to be poisonous and can be launched from the air. In close combat, they resort to clawing with their talons or hurling themselves at their opponents. In addition to their physical abilities, they have access to spells such as Change Self, Produce Flame, Scare, and Stinking Cloud. Once per day, they can also summon other Spinagons for assistance. Devoid of both pride and strength, Spinagons typically seek to alert more formidable Baator to engage in combat rather than confront enemies themselves. Unless pressed into a corner, unable to negotiate or dissuade their foe from violence, and possessing some tactical advantage, they will prefer retreat over confrontation. In battle, they disdain melee combat, preferring to circle above their adversaries while launching a barrage of spines. If a target proves difficult to hit, they attempt to maneuver closer for a better shot while avoiding direct engagement. Only when their opponents are weakened do they descend to attack with their weapons or claws. Conversely, spine devils seeking prey lurk in hiding, waiting for potential victims to pass by. They eagerly await to shoot their spines at unsuspecting targets, but remain cautious, ready to flee at the first sign of danger. They utilize spells like Stinking Cloud or Scare to cover their escape, or attempt to summon assistance when necessary, reserving their most potent abilities for strategic retreats. Spinagons are regarded and conduct themselves as the vermin of the 9 hells, lurking within its rocky wastelands and shadows of infernal cities, taking advantage of the abundance of hiding spots in such locales. While they can be found across all layers, they are most prevalent in the middle layers of Dis, Mineros, Phlegethos, Stygia, Malbogi, and Maladomini. They also occasionally manifest on the material plane, albeit in smaller numbers, often summoned alongside other malevolent entities due to their perceived dimness and weakness, making them easy for summoners to control. Their widespread presence through Baator stems from the multitude of tasks they undertake across the Nine Hells, serving as lackeys and attendants to more powerful Baatezu, essentially any capable of independent thought. They carry out orders due to their diminutive size and limited strength. As messengers, they prove to be loyal servants, who seldom fail in delivering letters or accurately remembering various messages, despite their heavy workload. Their small size allows them to skulk unnoticed in enemy territory, making them valuable as spies. Additionally, their obedient nature and inability to grasp the concept of monetary value make them reliable couriers, trusted to carry out errands effectively. As frequent flyers throughout the Nine Hells, they fulfill the dual roles of indirect sky scouts and sentries. When not engaged in espionage or delivery tasks, they serve as skirmishers and aerial artillery in Hell's legions, attacking in groups to compensate for their inherent weaknesses. Even outside of formal military structures, they organize into bands of screeching marauders, preying on any potential victims they encounter. Despite their versatility, most Baatezu view Spinagons with disdain due to their perceived lack of strength and skill. However, wise employers are compelled to treat them with some degree of respect. Firstly, Spinagons serve as the eyes and ears of Hell, potentially privy to valuable information. Additionally, it is their primary duty to gather lemures and Niparibos into hordes, providing an outlet for their frustration and ensuring they are not mistreated by infernal masters needing a swift assembly of forces. The rapid mobilization of Baatezu armies serves as a status symbol, with important figures receiving their legions first, and lesser individuals receiving theirs last. Consequently, Spinagons serving under middle-class Baatezu face significant pressure to swiftly assemble armies for their master's benefit. This pressure is exacerbated by the fact that Spinagons receive promotions based on evaluations from their masters. The position of Spinagon marks the first stage in a devil's journey of learning and determination, granting them some control over their own destiny. Serving under a Gelugon or Pit Fiend, they have the potential to advance to the ranks of Hamatula or Amnizu based on their performance thus far. However, the most common promotion is to become an Abishai, while those showing a notable lack of ambition may suffer the fate of being transformed into a Black Abishai, symbolizing wasted potential. Certain Spinagons undergo a ritual to transform the natural combustion of their spines into magical flames. However, using magically enhanced spines drains their life force with each quill fired. With this enhancement, they are distinguished by a darker shade of red. Due to their constant service to their masters, they only sleep in hour-long sessions multiple times throughout the day. Barbazu, also known as Bearded Devils, serve as the shock troops of the Nine Hells, displaying impulsiveness and belligerence unmatched among other Baatezu. Their name stems from the venomous beard-like appendages adorning their chins. Ranking the second lowest in the hierarchy of lesser devils, alongside Kokrakons and Maragons, Barbazu boasts greenish skin, humanoid stature akin to humans, and sinewy bodies. Their distinctive feature is their repulsive, wiry beards, sometimes infested with maggots, along with pointed ears and elongated tails. Covered in moist scales, they often wield massive, saw-toothed glaives, despite possessing clawed extremities. Characterized by volatility and aggression, Barbazu exhibit a propensity toward violence, launching attacks at the slightest provocation and seeking opportunities to inflict harm. Their cruelty stems not from loyalty or camaraderie, but from a primal urge to cause fear and destruction. Naturally inclined to follow rather than lead due to their recklessness and simplicity, they rank among the most chaotic of the Baatezu. Unlike other devils who rely on subtlety and deception, Barbazu prefer direct confrontation, favoring slaughter and maiming in interactions with mortals. Their attachment to their glaives is profound, often refusing superior alternatives in favor of their own weapons. The beard of a Barbazu harbors a perilous affliction known as the devil chills, causing those it strikes to suffer from a searing rash. Apart from striking with their claws and beards, they possess the ability to summon Abishai, lemurs, and additional Barbazu. They can whip themselves into a frenzied state, akin to that of a barbarian, fearlessly rampaging through the battlefield with no concern for their own safety. As a battle escalates, they become increasingly prone to entering this state, remaining enraged until subdued or removed from combat. Driven by their craving for combat, Barbazu eagerly engage in battle, often refusing to cease until their adversaries lie defeated. While their tactics tend to be straightforward, they are trained to cooperate in defending allies amidst the chaos of battle. Equipped with their sawtooth glaives, featuring a backward curving triple hook at the base, they inflict serrated wounds on their foes, causing significant bleeding, while the hook can be utilized to pull back fleeing enemies. As elite assault troops, bearded devils fight alongside Lemur hordes at the forefront of battle, deployed in the legions of Hell's middle circles, primarily in Minaros, either to defend Baator from external threats or to assail the armies of the Abyss. Often serving as enforcers for more cunning villains, they are also tasked with guarding the possessions and territories of Greater Barbazu. While groups of Barbazu commonly protect Omnizus, war devils are favored for their superior intellect. They also undertake the task of locating and transporting new souls from the shelves of Despond to the domains of their respective lords. Upon arriving at the blood-soaked islands of Avernus, they use their keen senses to determine which archdevil claims ownership of the soul based on the subordinate devil responsible for their corruption. All souls bound for the 9 hells bear a distinct mark of corruption. Occasionally, however, the destination of a soul remains ambiguous. Such instances are quite rare, as marked territories in the mortal realms typically dictate their damnation, even in the absence of devilish intervention. In such cases, Barbazu, in service to different lords, engage in frenzied negotiations that often escalate into violent conflicts. Successfully delivering unmarked souls to their archdevils earns the Barbazu recognition and enhances their prospects for promotion. However, this situation also presents opportunities for souls to escape or be stolen by third parties, with servitors of lawful evil deities often engaging in negotiations with the Barbazu for these unclaimed souls. Bred for warfare, bearded devils are highly esteemed for their abilities in combat. Nevertheless, their impulsive nature often leads to severe disciplinary actions from their peers. Despite their frontline roles in infernal armies, they never ascend to commanding positions, remaining among the lesser Barbazu. They rarely receive promotions due to their significant losses in the Blood War, being viewed primarily as expendable warriors. Most of them never advance beyond the rank of Barbazu, with exceptional Red Abishai and Spinagons bypassing the rank entirely. Only those bearded devils demonstrating exceptional merit have the opportunity to rise to the next stage, that of Ossiluths. Serving as the barrier between the 9 hells and the Abyss, Avernus poses considerable peril beyond its natural hazards, as Barbazu armies undergo rigorous training for impending conflicts. Once teeming with cities and strongholds, centuries of the Blood War have left it ravaged, with only constantly reconstructed bastions and imposing fortresses enduring, fueling its relentless expansion through military conquest. Renowned Baatorian green steel, a prized material, can exclusively be mined from the desolate reaches of Avernus. Extracted from deep shafts through large-scale mining operations, the ore is utilized in forging steel with a distinctive green hue, possessing superior toughness, sharpness, and lightness compared to steel on the prime material plane. The ruler of Avernus bears the title Lord of the First. Zariel, known as the Archduchess of Avernus and Lord of the First, currently reigns as the Archdevil ruler of Avernus, fully committed to prevailing in the ongoing blood war between devils and demons. Originally, she served as an angel of the 7 heavens before undergoing transformation into an archdevil and descending into the 9 hells. In her original celestial form, she possessed the appearance of a radiant solar, featuring flawless skin, wings adorned with golden feathers, and a blindfold concealing her eyes. However, following her fall, her appearance underwent a drastic change, taking on a more infernal aspect. A fiery halo now encircles her head. Her once pristine skin is marred by scorch marks, and her angelic wings are damaged by flames and have transformed into leathery appendages. She discarded her blindfold, revealing eyes ablaze with intense fury, and her hand was lost, replaced by a menacing flail. Zariel epitomizes a warmonger consumed by the thrill of battle, assessing others based on their combat abilities and readiness to engage. She values fervent aggression as much as discipline and training, personally leading her troops into battle with unwavering determination, leaving destruction in her wake. Yet despite her own martial skills and those of her forces, Zariel's recklessness is evident, relying heavily on berserker rages and her own stubborn resolve to ensure victory. Over time, her demeanor has evolved to mirror that of her infernal counterparts, becoming a cruel figure, inflicting psychological torment on enemies and subjecting dissenters to gruesome fates. Her growing distrustfulness even led her to disbelief when faced with acts of heroism, engaging instead in intricate schemes and binding contracts to ensnare others into servitude. Once a champion of blind justice, Zariel's decisions have become clouded by emotion, transforming her pursuit into vengeful rage, harboring grudges for decades. Zariel's notorious temper and lack of emotional restraint hinders her ability to act pragmatically, contrasting sharply with the calculated approach of her Lieutenant Bel. While Bel recognizes the futility of facing the infinite horde of demons, Zariel clings to her idealistic belief that mortals could thrive in the blood war on Avernus, only to see many flee in terror from the menacing fiends. Hell's essence is one of corruption, and Avernus in particular exploits a common flaw found in angels, hubris. Angels, with their sense of infallibility, only stoke Zariel's fury further, fueled by her perception of righteousness. Asmodeus commends her unwavering convictions, yet it was her relentless anger that ultimately led to her downfall. So consumed was she by her zeal for combat that she was willing to forsake her principles and sacrifice lives, abandoning her sworn duty to protect in pursuit of eradicating the demonic threat. Despite her pride and wrath, Zariel's responsibilities weighed heavily upon her. Confronting the sacrifices she had made to fuel her desire for battle filled her with sorrow, causing her to hesitate when faced with reminders of her past. While she may have viewed herself as a martyr of the cosmos, she still felt moments of shame for the atrocities committed to achieve her position. Despite her flaws, her belief in the righteousness of her actions was not absolute, and under the right circumstances, glimpses of her former goodness could resurface. Renowned alongside Geryon, Zariel is celebrated amongst the Archdevils for her unparalleled martial skill. Her power is such that she can defeat a Baldur in single combat and quickly recover her composure thereafter. After her descent, Zariel underwent a transformation, gaining fiendish abilities characteristic of Archdevils, including the power to manipulate her form. Many of her abilities took on a fiery aspect. She can conjure fireballs and walls of flame effortlessly. Her weapons, imbued with infernal fire, and her gaze possess a magical intensity capable of causing spontaneous combustion. Unlike typical Solars, who can perform resurrection 3 times daily and cure ailments such as disease, poison, blindness, or deafness with a touch, Zariel can invoke Finger of Death 3 times daily and possesses a touch that can inflict the same conditions that her angelic touch could once cure. However, Zariel's fall also brought undeniable limitations. She lacks the divine insight inherent in all Solars, such as the ability to detect lies or possess true sight, instead possessing the devilish power to pierce through magical darkness. Before her fall, Zariel wielded a longsword, lost along with her hand during her descent into Avernus. Known as the Sword of Zariel, it was concealed by her most loyal general, Yael, and her Holophant companion, Lulu. Infused with an angelic essence and the celestial energies of a Holophant, the sword became a bastion against the evils of Avernus. This sentient artifact possesses the ability to vanquish nearly indestructible foes, but only allows those it deems worthy to wield it. Attuning to its power results in an irreversible physical and magical transformation into an angelic form. After her descent, Zariel successfully acquired the Hammer of Matalok, an ancient weapon crafted by Thrym from the demon lord Kas Chachie, and began wielding it herself. Among Zariel's formidable arsenal is her flying fortresses, immense basalt citadels typically repaired and serviced at the decaying Stygian docks, fueled by souls extracted directly from the river Styx. One such fortress resembles a colossal blade, crewed by hundreds of devils and controlled telepathically only by Zariel. Initially, Avernus was a picturesque realm, a thriving paradise adorned with lush gardens, pastoral landscapes, trading outposts, cities, and other majestic areas. Asmodeus meticulously crafted it to entice mortals. However, due to incessant demonic incursions through Styx and the ceaseless carnage of the Blood War, the once pristine land has been ravaged, leaving behind mere vestiges of its former splendor, ruins, illusions, pleasant ephemeral sensory experiences, and ancient relics that briefly evoke moments of pure joy. Under Zariel's reign, Avernus transformed into a desolate realm, a battleground strewn with wreckage, layers of bones, and colossal, shattered war machines stretching endlessly. The rocky landscape bears witness to rivers of blood, mountains of corpses, and swarms of groaning Niparibos covering the terrain like living lakes as they scavenge for sustenance. Natural dangers abound, including bubbling tar pits, treacherous quicksand, fiery lava lakes, and desolate salt flats formed from the tears of the damned. Food and drink within Avernus are tainted, if not entirely inedible, while even provisions bought from elsewhere taste ashy or spoiled. The scarcity of quality sustenance drives mortal inhabitants to hoard what little they have, as the plane itself supernaturally rewards selfish behavior. Avernus's sky was bathed in an eerie blood-red glow emanating from 9 suns, lingering just below the horizon, with no discernible celestial body visible above. This crimson light filters through the nightmarish clouds that obscure the sky, casting a perpetual twilight that obscures the passage of time. Unpredictable fireballs rain from above, leaving smoldering craters in their wake. The air is thick with the scent of brimstone and burning tar, blasted by scorching gusts of wind that occasionally stir up a dark sandstorm capable of stripping flesh from bone. Biting flies, hell wasps, and sturges fill the air, congregating along Coward's Way to feast along the blood of Zariel's betrayed hell riders who hang crucified from metal trees. Zariel's stronghold, a colossal basalt fortress, sprawls across a vast expanse. Its walls are adorned with the charred remains of those who have incurred the displeasure of the Lord of the First. Their agonized cries are audible from a long distance. Manning the citadel are hundreds of assorted devils, both within the walls and patrolling outside, while towering turrets fortify its defenses. Zariel's influence extends beyond the citadel itself, altering the surrounding landscape with her magic. Around the perimeter of the fortress, bursts of flame erupt from the ground. Smoke veils the area, and the scent of burning flesh and the sound of anguished screams can be detected for great distances. Within her domain, she wields formidable powers, conjuring fireballs and terrifying illusions, often depicting loved ones engulfed in flames to intimidate her enemies. Zariel's primary focus is prosecuting the blood war, consuming much of her time and attention, leaving little room for other matters. Engaged in relentless military campaigns, she often leads invasions herself or commands from a flying fortress, overseeing Avernus's defense. She displays a preference for spawning cambions to serve as leaders among her forces. Additionally, she bears the responsibility of safeguarding the plane against external threats, with the river Styx being a critical point of concern for demonic incursions and infernal assaults against the abyss. While Styx devils stand guard over the citadel and outposts along the river, Zariel holds authority to travel to and from Avernus, retaining the final say over who can pass through. Zariel's governance is characterized by strict control maintained through fear. In the face of betrayal, she metes out swift and merciless retribution. Many denizens of Avernus are ambitious warlords, commanding infernal machines in their quest to expand their territories. Rather than personally intervening, Zariel allows these factions to vie for power, prioritizing her duties in the blood war. However, she struck a deal with Mad Maggie, a night hag fascinated by Zariel's fall, agreeing to leave her be if Maggie kept the other warlords in check. Zariel's disdain for political maneuvering and refusal to form alliances alienates her from her peers, rendering her a pariah among the Archdevils. Her origins provide further justification for their schemes to overthrow her, with each Archdevil eager to seize her position if given the opportunity. Dispater's paranoia prompts him to retreat deeper into his iron tower upon Zariel's resurgence, while Mephistopheles seeks to placate her wrath and gain more leverage over her. Despite his exile from Hell, the former Archdevil Gargauth harbors ambitions to supplant Zariel as Lord of Avernus. His power is diminished, but his desire for dominance remains the same. Conversely, Zariel would spare no effort to eliminate him if given the chance. Asmodeus, however, admires Zariel's fervor for warfare and welcomes her as a valuable addition to the ranks of the Archdevils, seeing her as a prized asset. Nonetheless, rumors circulate that she harbors a desire for vengeance against Asmodeus and plots to drive him from the Hells. Zariel's primary adversary is Bel, the former Lord of the First. Despite Asmodeus's instructions to cooperate, the animosity between them is profound, leading them to fabricate distractions to avoid direct confrontation. Zariel strategically assigns her advisor to oversee weapons production to keep Bel occupied, though this has so far failed to thwart his treacherous plots. As Asmodeus backed Zariel, Bel was unable to challenge her openly, but sought to undermine her authority by portraying her as incompetent. He allows her to pursue reckless strategies, hoping she will overextend her forces and be deposed after defeat. Bel even entertained the notion of aiding Zariel's redemption, despite the slim chance of success, as it would pave the way for his reinstatement as an archduke. Zariel's relationship with Tiamat, the haughty and aloof draconic goddess, is complicated but fundamentally hostile. Zariel harbors resentment towards Tiamat, who once held power over her during her demotion, and has dispatched agents to pilfer from Tiamat's hordes. However, Zariel also bestowed the burning orb of Etiol and the abandoned upon Tiamat's successor diplomats, and make attempts to aid her escape from hell by assisting mortals with similar goals. These efforts are driven by Zariel's inability to kill Tiamat outright, viewing her departure from Avernus as the next best thing. Zariel takes pleasure in personally slaying demons whenever the opportunity arises, though she maintains particular relationships with some. She defeated the misogynistic Kostchichie, claiming his hammer and imprisoning him in the cavern of Avernus to prevent his resurrection. She refrained from directly confronting him should he demand the return of his hammer, exercising caution in her approach. Zariel also shares a history with Yino-Gu, the demon prince of gnolls, predating her transformation into an archdevil. His massacre of a village under her protection before she banished him back to the abyss is speculated to have played an important role in her descent. Yino-Gu harbors a deep-seated hatred for Zariel and desires nothing more than her complete destruction. Before her descent, she shared a centuries-old friendship with the Holophant Lulu, who also served as her mount and traveling companion. Their bond evokes sorrow in both, with Lulu mourning Zariel's transformation and Zariel lamenting the loss of their friendship. Other reminders of Zariel's past were grim, such as the tragic fates of some of her knights. Haruman, a mortal crusader turned Hell Knight, displays unwavering loyalty to Zariel, while Olanthius, a Death Knight, blames himself for failing to prevent her fall and is bound to serve her despite his hatred. Zariel carries guilt for leaving her loyal friend to such a fate. A select few tieflings inherit the blood of Zariel, possessing greater strength and innate magical abilities linked to aggression and combat. Zariel's followers consist of individuals seeking to engage in battle but lacking the necessary skills, training, or bravery. Her agents provide them with the expertise and resources needed to fulfill their martial desires. Ordinary cultists exhibit heightened ferocity, while cult leaders demonstrate tactical acumen, often led by Zariel's own cambions. Individuals aspiring to prove themselves in combat, seeking renown and wealth through military accomplishments, refugees lacking power, and those simply aiming to acquire survival skills are all drawn into Zariel's cults. More experienced members include militant conquerors, seasoned warriors desiring further combat power, and hobgoblins escaping the influence of the goblinoid pantheon of Maglubiet. Entire orders of knights, fighters' guilds, and mercenary companies can be swayed by the allure of the Archduchess of Avernus. She covets the souls of the greatest warriors and demands excellence from her followers, while she permits them to live relatively full lives to hone their skills before joining her disciplined and capable ranks in hell. She expects unwavering loyalty. Mortals who please her in life might retain their memories and be elevated to higher forms of devils instead of being consigned to become lemurs. Her contracts are binding and eternal, akin to unbreakable ultimatums. Despite the advantages of serving the former angel, Zariel is not averse to employing deceitful tactics to achieve her objectives. The ongoing prosecution of the Blood War strains her armies, constantly depleting her legions through ceaseless combat. To sustain the war effort, she aggressively recruits mortal souls and seeks evildoers on the material plane to bolster her infernal forces, ensuring a steady influx of infernal soldiers. While violence remains a crucial aspect of her approach, Zariel's elite soul harvesters employ a method that is undeniably diabolical. Her cults thrive in regions plagued by conflict, with her agents acting as war profiteers, fostering corruption by disrupting harmony and stability. They manipulate circumstances to goad mortals into committing heinous acts, providing them with the means to harm each other, funding nefarious organizations, distributing weapons, and inciting hatred through acts of sectarian violence, justified by fabricated enemies. Zariel also exploits mortals' desires for spiritual guidance, employing deceptive tactics to manipulate individuals into serving her. Gideon Lightward exemplifies this strategy, as Zariel exploited his zeal by sending devils disguised as angels to offer him power in exchange for aiding in the fight against demons. Gradually, his sanity deteriorated, transforming him into a tyrannical leader fixated on eradicating demons to the point of madness. Certain cultists praise Zariel for her relentless efforts in combating the demonic threat and winning the blood war. Following Bel's rebellion, Zariel's worshipper base dwindled as her followers scattered and her cults disintegrated. However, upon her reinstatement, Zariel's cult began to regain strength. The potential consequences of her demise, including the voiding of all her contracts, would likely result in considerable cosmic upheaval. Originally, Zariel served as a Solar under the authority of the Morning Lord Lathander, with her name, as noted by Rhea Montalmorn, signifying Champion of Light. Assigned to monitor the progress of the Blood War in Avernus from the Seven Heavens of Mount Celestia, Zariel gradually developed an obsession with the conflict and an inclination for battle due to prolonged exposure. Having her impulsive nature and yearning for combat, her requests to engage were consistently rebuffed by her angelic peers. Believing it was the duty of the angelic host to vanquish evil, Zariel advocated for a direct assault from celestial forces to obliterate both sides of the Blood War in one decisive blow, thereby liberating the multiverse from the fiends who ravaged it. However, her superiors repeatedly forbade her from intervening, frustrating Zariel and straining her loyalty. Her breaking point came when Yinogu massacred a village under her protection. In the Year of the Bow, 1354, Zariel defied her superiors and led the Hell Riders of El Turil, a group of mortal allies personally trained by her, into Avernus in a daring campaign known as the Ride. Despite being outnumbered by the devils, the army fought valiantly, but eventually suffered defeat. With survivors fleeing in shame and terror, Asmodeus dispatched a delegation to retrieve Zariel's unconscious body from the battlefield, after which he praised her resilience and corruption. Succumbing to the allure of Hell's power, Zariel was transformed into an archdevil by Asmodeus, who proclaimed her his champion. During her reign, Zariel initiated a change in the demonym from Avernus from Avernon to Avernal, causing mild confusion among the denizens of Hell. Bel, a former Archdevil of the Nine Hells, assumed the role of Archduke of Avernus after overthrowing Zariel. Renowned for his military skills, he employs strategic finesse and careful planning, contrasting with Zariel's impulsive aggression. Unlike many other Archdevils, Bel retains the appearance of a pit fiend, manifesting as a towering figure with crimson scales, formidable bat-like wings, and menacing claws and fangs oozing with a toxic green venom. His countenance reflects centuries of malevolence and malice, bearing a brutish yet unmistakably infernal aspect. Methodical and composed, Bel ranks among the foremost military strategists of the Nine Hells, leveraging every tactical advantage and dictating the terms of engagement. His preferred tactics include ambushes, deception, and exploiting the weaknesses of his adversaries while anticipating their treacherous maneuvers. Although prone to outbursts of rage when thwarted, he typically maintains a cool demeanor, a stark contrast to Zariel's relentless fury. Crafty, analytical, and pragmatic, Bel acknowledges the overwhelming numbers of demons and adopts a defensive strategy focused on containment. As a long-term planner, he recognizes the impossibility of outright victory and values any assistance, regardless of its source. Although inherently evil and sadistic, he prioritizes his duties over personal gratification. Exceptionally difficult to surprise or deceive, Bel only engages in direct conflict when provoked. However, he can be a valuable ally if approached with respect and honesty. When he fulfills his promises meticulously, he places less emphasis on their intent. He harbors a strong aversion to magic, fearing physical strength over mystical abilities. Endowed with the abilities of a physically and magically enhanced pit fiend, Bel's mere presence instills fear and awe in his adversaries. As a general, he prefers to command from a distance and never enters battle without a retinue of minions at his disposal. In combat, Bel rarely engages in melee unless he holds a significant advantage, preferring to unleash destructive spell-like abilities such as walls of fire from a distance. However, when forced into close-quarters combat, he becomes exceptionally dangerous, reserving his most potent weapon, his venomous bite, for arcane spellcasters. Despite once possessing magical mastery akin to that of archwizards, Bel eventually developed a strong aversion to magic, rendering his method of attack unpredictable. Bel's personal weapon is his jagged flaming greatsword, a curved blade emitting intense heat and engulfed in flames. Renowned for its effectiveness against both demons and cold-based creatures, the sword instills fear among demons across the realms, having claimed the lives of thousands in the Blood War. Additionally, the blade serves as a grisly trophy belt adorned with severed heads of angels, their agonized screams echoing from their decapitated forms. In addition to his belt, Bel always wears a highly enchanted ring of protection, enhancing his defensive capabilities. Before assuming the role of Archduke of Avernus, Bel resided in a fortress that surpassed any construction on the prime material plane in size and defensibility. Built from basalt, marble, granite, and iron, his stronghold defied description with its infernal logic. Surrounded by towering mountains and encased in a tall iron fence adorned with screaming skulls, the fortress boasts thick gates, jagged fences, spiked walls, protruding towers, and sharp angles. It is guarded by legions of lemurs, Abishai and Barbazu, as well as other fiends, many of whom can detect invisible intruders and are eager to tear them apart. The stronghold emanates an aura of hatred, suffering, and wicked delight, promising harm to any who dared approach too closely. Upon ascending to become the Lord of Avernus, Bel governed the desolate wastelands from his formidable bronze citadel. It served as Bel's personal residence and strategic command center, where he convened with the Dark Eight and conducted meetings with his own inner circle. Continuously expanding, the city was reinforced and fortified by legions of lemurs, soul shells, imps, and other enslaved laborers. The citadel is encircled by 14 concentric ring walls, guarded by Barbazus, Maragons, and Spinagons. Each ring is fortified with guard towers, gates protected by formidable devils, and an arsenal of ballistae, catapults, magical relics, and war machines. The city's architecture is utilitarian, with bone scaffolding supporting half of the walls, while its rear extends into the foothills of the Stygomaris Mountains. Travelers seeking audience with Bel or requesting safe passage have to navigate the citadel's defenses and confront his lieutenants or the warlord of Avernus within its walls. After his ousting, Bel took up residence in an iron fortress carved into a volcano. This stronghold serves as a foundry for crafting weaponry and armor for the Blood War. Its defense is bolstered by infernal legions and dark enchantments that detect intruders. Before ascending to the rank of Archduke, Bel focused on earning favor from his superiors by either purging Avernus of demon invaders or leading his legions through planar portals to hunt down Tanari. He was notorious for leading his hellish horde across Avernus, ruthlessly eliminating anyone who dare oppose him. Once he claimed the title of Archduke, Bel shifted his focus to consolidating his power and advancing the infernal agenda against demonkind. He personally oversaw the construction of defensive structures and strategized new military campaigns to further his cause. Bel's ascent to Lord of Avernus was not the result of recklessness or chance, and he maintained a firm grip on the plane's affairs, ensuring that demons never occupied it for more than a day. Despite the vastness of Avernus, he kept a vigilant watch over it with the help of his Spinagon and imp spies. Despite possessing the authority to reshape Avernus, Bel found himself constantly occupied with the ceaseless warfare that plagues the tumultuous realm, leaving little time for reconstruction. As a result, the landscape remains strewn with ruins and abandoned battlefields, littered with discarded weapons. Political maneuvering holds little interest for Bel, and he actively avoids entanglements with his fellow lords of the Nine. His ascent to power, marked by an open rebellion against his former lord, has left him with strained relationships among his peers, who often refer to him as the Pretender. While they acknowledge that they may have acted similarly in his position, his betrayal resulted in the loss of hidden servants, souring their opinion of him. Despite Asmodeus's mandate that all archdevils contribute resources to Bel for defending Hell against the Abyss, Bel's focus on this task allows his peers to indulge in more intriguing acts of corruption and subterfuge. They appreciate his role as their defender and are content to provide him with resources as long as he does not interfere with their own agendas. However, some ambitious archdevils, such as Belial and Levistus, are not above espionage and betrayal in their pursuit of power. While he commands formidable forces capable of challenging his peers, he shows no inclination to do so. Some accounts attribute this to a lack of ambition, suggesting Bel is content with his eternal role as the leader of Hell's armies. Others argue that his focus on managing the Blood War leaves him with little time for schemes against his fellow archdevils. Without allies among his peers, Bel seeks partnership elsewhere. Despite their contentious relationship, Bel and Tiamat have reached an understanding, leading to an increase in the number of Abishai in Bel's ranks. He remains loyal to Asmodeus, hoping to earn further favor and advancement. While his spy networks occasionally leak information to Asmodeus, Bel's primary loyalty lies with the King of Hell, followed by the Nine Hells as a whole, and finally himself. His relationship with Zariel is characterized by mutual animosity. They actively avoid each other and engage in petty schemes to undermine one another. Bel encourages Zariel's reckless behavior, hoping to tarnish her reputation and perhaps even orchestrate her removal from power. Despite their rivalry, Bel quietly harbors a desire for Zariel's redemption or downfall. Bel enlisted the aid of various dupes across the Hells, including Belhifet, the Prince of the Imps, who provided insights into the planes of Bel's older and more powerful peers. Another ally is Alosis, the Butcher of Nessus, who maintained herds of monsters for Bel and conducted breeding programs to supply his armies with new mounts and living weapons. Bel's armies also include powerful outcast devils lurking in Avernus, awaiting a chance to regain power. One such devil is Moloch, the former Grand Duke of Malbogi, who managed to reintegrate himself into the hierarchy of the Hells. Despite Amon's distrust of Bel due to his past betrayal of his master, Bel's loyalty to Asmodeus spared him from Amon's attempts at revenge. Bel provided covert aid to him when he worked against their shared enemies and instructed his legions to allow Amon safe passage through Avernus. Bel's relationship with the Dark Eight, his vassals and advisors, is complex. While nominally serving as his counselors, the Dark Eight wield significant influence over Bel, effectively making him a puppet archduke. He relied on their approval for his actions, and they spend most of their time in Nessus, where Bel holds no authority. However, as long as he succeeded in the Blood War, the Dark Eight remained supportive of his reign, fending off potential rivals and traitorous servants. Yet any sign of weakness from Bel could lead to the end of their loyalty. For protection, Bel surrounds himself with pit fiend bodyguards and warlike devils. Even when under the command of specific devils, Bel ensures his influence permeates through the structure of his armies. His rise to power in Avernus was aided by the Sign of One, a faction from Sigil that believes their thoughts shape reality. While their methods are somewhat effective, Bel pledged to repay them with a favor of equal significance when their faction leader called upon him to do so. Following Zariel's defeat, her meager following of worshippers dispersed, failing to transfer their allegiance to Bel. Many mortals remained unaware of the change in leadership, and the persistent presence of Tiamat in Avernus has led some to mistake her as the true ruler of Avernus, hindering the growth of Bel's worshipper base. Although Bel revels in cruelty and corruption, he didn't actively seek to lead useful mortals to their downfall. However, his apparently evil nature often corrupted them unintentionally. While he lacks a formal cult, he occasionally attracts worship from warriors, especially those dedicated to close-range combat, who he recruits to defend his domain. Certain paladins, sworn to an oath of conquest, are drawn to Hell's infernal forces, becoming fervent supporters of the warlord of Avernus. Bel prioritizes the success of those pledged to him in battle, granting them tactical brilliance and unique insights into defeating their enemies. His loyal servants can call upon this power to manifest accursed green flames on their weapons, which overcome resistance to fire. His brand, marking one's service to him, is a cold iron longsword or greatsword imbued with green hellfire, which is particularly effective against good aligned beings as well as demons. Bel's avatar takes the form of a muscular humanoid with red-tinged skin and an intimidating presence which deters most who encounter it. While typically focused on the Blood War, he acknowledges the significance of the material plane, including Faerun, as yet another battleground. He dispatches his aspects, often accompanied by devilish followers, to combat particularly influential or powerful demonic cults. Although their methods are typically seen as malevolent, Bel's aspects occasionally collaborate with mortals, albeit temporarily, to achieve their goals, sometimes offering incentives to secure their assistance. Despite his less than favorable reputation, he occasionally deploys his aspects as ambassadors and agents in the courts of other archdevils. Bel's tale is one of the most celebrated stories in the Nine Hells, a narrative that every devil aspires to emulate, rise through the ranks, eliminate him, and claim his position. Originating as a mindless lemur, he steadily ascended the diabolical hierarchy through a combination of strength, skill, and cunning until he had attained the status of a fully fledged pit fiend. In the early stages of his career as a pit fiend, he led a response force comprising 1,000 Barbazus, approximately equivalent to 3 companies, across Avernus, quelling rebellions and repelling invasions, earning acclaim with each successful thwarting of Tenari attacks. Later, he assumed command of 3 companies of Kornagons under Baator's command, known as the Iron Guard, further solidifying his position through strategic assassinations and battlefield exploits. One of his most renowned campaigns was the Four Cross, a masterful political maneuver marked by deceit and treachery. During a pitched battle, Bel orchestrated a sudden betrayal, turning his troops against their Barbazu allies before presenting fabricated battle plans to the wary Tenari. Posing as though he would rejoin the forces of Hell, he deceived both sides, leaking the demons' plans to the devils in secret. Subsequently, he turned on the Barbazu mid-conflict, prolonging the chaos for over a year before executing his ultimate plan, a devastating ambush that crippled the Tenari forces for over a decade. Initially commanding legions comprised mainly of Lemurs, Niparibos, Spinagons, Abishai, and Barbazus, which serve as disposable assets, he eventually gained control over nearly all of Hell's armies. When Bel successfully seized control over the first layer of the Hells from his former master, he readied himself for an impending assault, only to be intercepted by Martinet, Asmodeus' constable. Martinet conveyed Asmodeus' approval, stating that the Lord of Nessus had chosen not to consign Bel to eternal torment in the pit of flame. As long as Bel upheld his obligations to the Dark Eight and continues battling the demonic hordes, he would retain control over Avernus, an offer Bel readily accepted. However, he soon realized that Asmodeus had hidden motives behind his apparent support, which became apparent only after Bel had agreed. Recognizing that other lords of Hell would distrust the insurgent, and understanding the all-consuming nature of the blood war, Asmodeus had permitted Bel's uprising to leverage his military expertise while preventing him from scheming against the other archdevils, particularly Asmodeus himself. Rumor has it that the Dark Eight, renowned for their loyalty to Asmodeus during the Reckoning, had deliberately groomed Bel to supplant the former lord. With Bel enjoying his favor, in the year of the Bright Blade, Asmodeus dispatched Spinaglasia's daughter on Toril on a mission to assassinate the daughter of a noble storm giant named Ordlashone. Ordlashone and a surface world wizard had conspired to assail Avernus, and the assassination attempt was presumably intended to disrupt their plans for Bel's benefit. While the attempt ultimately failed, the aftermath of the attack remained uncertain. Zariel was referenced in the Trial of Asmodeus, a theatrical production allegedly inspired by true events and written by the Aasimar bard Anodius. In the play, angels from Celestia brought Asmodeus to trial for his transgressions, with the supremely lawful Primus residing as judge. Amidst the proceedings, Zariel disrupted the court's orderliness, demanding to be heard and engaging in a physical altercation with fellow angels. Ultimately, Primus restored order and provided Asmodeus with the ruby rod to ensure his compliance with the law. According to legend, Zariel possesses a degree of control over the environment of Avernus. This control manifests in the form of seemingly sporadic fireballs that erupt through the layer, believed to be fueled by Zariel's resentment during her temporary captivity. These fire outbursts are also rumored to contain remnants of Avernus's former structures. Avernus was previously under the dominion of the then archfiend Tiamat, who faithfully served Asmodeus. Tasked with preventing rogue devils on the layer from posing a threat, Tiamat's performance fell short, leading to her demotion. Recognizing that her failure was not intentional, Asmodeus chose to spare Tiamat from punishment after delving into her thoughts, allowing her to remain in Avernus unpunished. Furthermore, he granted her an opportunity to reclaim her position by impressing him in her new role as the guardian of the main gate to Dis. This arrangement persisted until 1346, when Tiamat ascended to the status of demigoddess. Tiamat is the lawful evil dragon deity associated with greed. She reigns as the queen over evil dragons, and at times reluctantly serves the greater god's Bane and later Asmodeus. Before becoming part of the Faerunian pantheon, she held a place among the draconic deities, and briefly among the Untheric pantheon as well. Tiamat stands in eternal opposition to her brother Bahamut, who governs the metallic good dragons. Distinctive among chromatic dragons, Tiamat possesses one head for each primary color, representing the most prevalent species of chromatics: black, blue, green, red, and white. Each head functions autonomously and possesses the abilities characteristic of its respective dragon. Additionally, her physique shares traits with a wyvern, featuring a lengthy tail tipped with a venomous stinger. In addition to her formidable presence, Tiamat manifests through 3 primary avatars. The Dark Lady takes the form of a Mulan woman with lengthy dark hair and pitch-black eyes. Clad in dark attire, she often wears a seductive smile. The Chromatic Dragon possesses short legs and 5 heads, each capable of representing any combination of Chromatic Dragon characteristics. The skin of each head bears 3 stripes, blending hues of blue-green, gray, and purple before merging into brown skin covering her tail. Occasionally, she assumes the guise of Chazar when appearing in Jacinta. Additionally, she can manifest as the Undying Queen, taking on the form of a Draco Lich. In Avernus, Tiamat presented 3 different manifestations, one of which remains stationed at the Gate to Dis. Her appearance as Azural serves as her public persona when facing challengers in combat, while her original body remains secluded in her lair. Tiamat possesses a character defined by greed, arrogance, hatred, spite, and vanity. She harbors an unforgiving nature towards any perceived offense and relentlessly pursues greater power and wealth. Mortals are mere pawns in her grand designs, viewed with disdain and deemed expendable. While capable of displaying charm and allure when advantageous, her inherently self-serving and reptilian disposition invariably reveals itself over time. Following her experience as an archfiend, Tiamat exhibits a tempered recklessness, tempered by growing paranoia. The company of dragons brings her pleasure, and she maintains numerous powerful worm consorts of various chromatic breeds. Her insatiable greed for treasures is sated through gifts brought to her by followers rather than through personal acquisition. As a unique chromatic dragon, embodying traits from the 5 most common varieties, Tiamat proves a formidable adversary in battle. Witnesses attest to her heads coordinating seamlessly in combat, utilizing the breath weapons and spell-like abilities inherent in their respective species. Though limited in ground-based attacks due to her immense size, she compensates with proficient aerial assaults. During her tenure within the Untheric pantheon, Tiamat governed a domain known as Zigaraxis. Additionally, she maintains a lair within Avernus, commonly referred to as Tiamat's Lair. Following the dissolution of the Untheric pantheon, Tiamat seized control of the dragon spawn pits of Azurul, a realm formerly ruled by Azurul. Renaming it the Cave of Greed, she situated it in the lowest reaches of the Dragon Eyrie region, establishing a connection to her lair in Avernus. Though rumored to possess a realm in Heliopolis, this claim is merely a ruse devised by Tiamat to confound her adversaries. Despite facing repeated setbacks from her enemies, Tiamat remains resolute in her ambition to dominate the realms. She holds a particular interest in exerting control over Unther and Jacinta. Following the spell plague, her intention extends to Murgom and Timanther, and the dragon empires of Lacarand. Preferring the seclusion of her lair, she orchestrates her schemes through her church members, or agents within the cult of the dragon. Tiamat vigilantly monitors the actions of evil dragon kind, inciting them towards acts of avarice, pride, and malevolence. As of 1491, her foremost objective is to break free from the confines of the 9 hells. Tiamat embodies values diametrically opposed to those of her brother Bahamut, resulting in a deep-seated enmity reflected among their respective followers. Additionally, she harbors discord with her brother Null, stemming from a historical grievance. The god of Kobolds, Kurtulmak, also serves her. Membership in certain pantheons has engendered further hostilities. She clashes with Iyat Vim, the primary obstacle to her inclusion in the Faerunian pantheon, and later with his father Bane. Additionally, she counts Ilmater among her adversaries. Tiamat has forged contractual relationships with the Githyanki race following negotiations with their leader Gith. Having previously inhabited Avernus as an archfiend, Tiamat maintains a loose alliance with Bel, providing him with numerous Abishai to aid in the blood war. She holds resentment towards Mammon for diverting evil dragons from her influence and aided Asmodeus in crafting his ruby rod. However, her alliance with Asmodeus and the Archdevil Bel soured after they betrayed her. Tiamat established consorts from each of the chromatic dragon breeds and encourages her followers of evil dragon blood to proliferate across the world, birthing her offspring. Observers from the outer planes noted striking similarities between Tiamat and Tahisis, a prominent goddess revered on the world of Kryn. Both entities manifest as 5-headed dragons with an alternate guise as the Dark Lady and share similar personas and domains. Speculation among planar denizens range from considering them identical to viewing them as starkly contrasting entities. Some posit that one is merely a reflection or avatar of the other. While these theories hold elements of truth, the true nature of their relationship is shrouded in mystery. However, Tahassus maintains a distinct divine realm known as Abthalom, or the Nether Reaches, situated in Avernus. Within the state of Unther, Tiamat garnered a notorious reputation for her conflicts with other members of their pantheon, bearing responsibility for the numerous setbacks experienced by Unther. This reputation proved advantageous when the erratic behavior of Gilgiam incited rebellion against him, leading rebels to worship Tiamat and eventually establishing an organized church in her honor. Tiamat infiltrated the cult of the dragon, attracting certain members to become her devotees. Additionally, for a period of 15 years, the Kuraulyek family of Luchek unknowingly served Tiamat while venerating the primordial entropy. Tiamat subverted entropy into a conduit for her power, thereby ensnaring the Kuraulyeks as her pawns. Since the emergence of their species on Toril, many evil dragons have worshipped Tiamat, while kobolds, though not worshipping her as a deity, revere her as their creator. Following the spell plague, she also gained a small following among the Dragonborn. Tiamat exclusively accepts evil clerics who, like herself, aspire to subject the world to the dominion of evil dragons. The church devoted to Tiamat adheres to a rigid hierarchy of ranks and titles. Her clerics are tasked with two primary objectives: accumulating an ever-expanding hoard of wealth for the faith and undermining the worship of rival deities. Consequently, they spend the majority of their time engaged in a ceaseless cycle of thefts, assassinations, vandalism, and arson. In such regions as Unther and Chesenta, their focus centers on seizing maximal power, while in Western Faerun, the cult's operatives concentrate on undermining the cult of the dragon. Throughout the ages, scholars debated Tiamat's true nature, questioning whether she was genuinely a deity. Some view her as the epitome of evil dragon kind, a devil or demon, an avatar of another deity, or even a supremely powerful mortal dragon revered as queen and creator by chromatic dragons. Regardless, it is widely acknowledged that she wields immense power and is venerated as a goddess by evil dragons. Historically, the sages of the 14th century regard Tiamat as a goddess, born alongside the rest of the draconic pantheon with the advent of the first dragons. However, later scholars propose a nuanced perspective, suggesting that while Tiamat possesses divine attributes, her origins tied to the material plane render her ontologically distinct from gods originating from the outer planes. Her origins are shrouded in conflicting accounts, with various traditions offering different explanations. In widely accepted traditions, she is portrayed as the daughter of Asgaroth and sister to Bahamut and Null. However, according to the myths of the Dragonborn of Aber, Bahamut and Tiamat emerged from the sundered corpse of Asgaroth during the Dawn War. An ancient draconic myth titled Elegy for the First World posits that Bahamut and Tiamat both arose from the primordial chaos at the dawn of time. Despite the ambiguity surrounding her origins, Tiamat's cult experienced rapid growth within the communities of chromatic dragons, particularly among blue, green, and red dragons. According to the Elegy for the First World, after Bahamut and Tiamat emerged from the primeval chaos, they collaborated to create a world known as the Prime Material Plane, referred to as the First World in the poem. Following this creation, they brought forth the dragon god Sardior to aid in the creation of the first metallic and chromatic dragons. When the gods from the outer planes attempted to invade the First World, Tiamat resisted their incursion even after Bahamut's defeat. Eventually, she succumbed to the combined might of the gods and was imprisoned in the realm of darkness. According to the legends, the 1,000-year war concluded with a curse befalling Tiamat after she slew an unidentified giant deity. As a result, Tiamat was condemned to imprisonment in Avernus, only able to depart the plane through a potent ritual summoning. Alternate accounts suggest that Tiamat was sent to the Nine Hells as punishment for resisting the gods during their initial arrival on the material plane, while others propose that Tiamat chose to journey to the Hells voluntarily. The Dragonfall Wars erupted once dragons had firmly established themselves during the time of the dragons. Religious factions among the dragons engaged in conflict over their disparate ideologies, leading to the philosophical realization that gods permitting such strife were undeserving of worship. This realization spurred a period of draconic apathy towards their deities lasting for millennia. However, the deep-seated animosity between Tiamat and Bahamut and their followers persisted, igniting the prolonged conflict known as the Dragonfall War. During the early stages of the war, Tiamat bred monstrous draconic creatures called the Spawn of Tiamat in a bid to eradicate Bahamut's followers. The intensity of the war fluctuated over time, reaching its climax between -2000 and -1000. This period coincided with the rise of the Untheric Empire and the prominence of its pantheon. Tiamat assumed a place among their deities, manifesting in a three-headed aspect. Within the Untheric pantheon, Tiamat served to counterbalance the order represented by the other deities with her chaos. However, her realm in Zigaraxis amplified the darkest facets of her nature, rendering her too formidable for the other Untheric gods to effectively balance alone. With Bahamut assuming a guise as Marduk and garnering humanoid worshippers alongside Tiamat's own growing following, the Dragon War entered a heightened phase of conflict. The siblings engaged in personal conflict, unable to gain a decisive advantage. Tiamat also actively opposed the other Untheric deities, leading to the Church of Enlil dubbing her the nemesis of the gods and attributing every misfortune befalling the nation to her influence. During the Orkgate Wars in -1071, amidst the Battle of the Gods, Tiamat seized an opportunity to slay Gilgeam as he battled Ilneval. However, her brother Marduk intervened, resulting in a fatal confrontation where they both perished. With their Untheric aspects extinguished, both Tiamat and Bahamut were stripped of their divine power. Tiamat's diminished following in Unther proved insufficient to maintain her status even as a lesser deity. Nonetheless, as Gilgeam ascended as a tyrannical god-king, the people of Unther clandestinely sought solace in the memory of the nemesis of the gods, turning to her in secret. Reduced to the status of an archfiend, Tiamat was granted rulership over Avernus by Asmodeus. Tasked with preventing outcast devils on that layer of hell from posing a threat, her performance proved lackluster, leading to her demotion. She became guardian to the entrance of Dis, which persisted until 1346, when Untherite cultists successfully summoned another aspect of Tiamat to Toril. This aspect, referred to as the Dark Lady, incited rebellion throughout Unther against the Church of Gilgeam. Gilgeam's own church experienced a surge in membership, leading to Tiamat's elevation to the status of a demigoddess. Seizing the opportunity, she also influenced the Lich Samaster and his cult of the dragon to pursue the Draco Rage mythal. During the time of troubles, following Eo's banishment of the gods from the plains, the Dark Lady reverted to her three-headed Untheric avatar, only to be swiftly slain by Gilgeam's forces. However, her divine essence inexplicably fragmented into three parts, which came to inhabit Shazar, Gastanius, and Scuthosine, three formidable chromatic dragons. Shazar consumed the other two, merging their essence and heralding the resurgence of Tiamat's more potent five-headed form. With this form, she slew Gilgeam, prompting Eo to dissolve the Untheric pantheon entirely. Regaining the status of a lesser deity, Tiamat regained the ability to manifest avatars. However, one of these avatars was destroyed in 1359 by King Gareth Dragonsbane, who had been tasked by Bahamut to eradicate the wand of Orcus embedded in Tiamat's heart's blood. In accomplishing this feat, King Gareth also reintroduced the worship of Bahamut to his people, elevating the god to the status of a lesser deity and reigniting the Dragonfall War. In response, Tiamat unleashed her aberrant dragon spawn and numerous followers upon Vasa to trouble the Church of Bahamut in Damara, while also recruiting disaffected members of the Cult of the Dragon. Nevertheless, the Platinum Dragon countered her actions by reviving the ancient race of Dragonborn loyal to Bahamut. Through the transformed primordial entropy, Tiamat conveyed her desires and expanded her following among humanoid worshippers. In 1371, she ascended to the ranks of the Faerunian pantheon after garnering the worship of a cult in Luthchek. This elevation to deity status rejuvenated her, alleviating the aches and pains that had plagued her mortal form. However, her previous experience as an archfiend imbued her with a newfound caution and paranoia. Deceiving her clergy, she claimed to reside in a grand divine realm in Heliopolis, rather than in Avernus. When members of the Twisted Rune discovered the truth about the purported realm in Heliopolis, Tiamat retaliated by manifesting an aspect that defeated them and orchestrated the demise of the minor draconic deity Azarul in Dragoniri. Utilizing the essence of Listener and the Twisted Rune, Tiamat absorbed Azarul, acquiring his body and divine realm in secret, while simultaneously beginning the creation of her true divine realm in the mountains of Avernus. In 1373, Samaster manipulated the Draco Rage mythal to induce permanent insanity in all dragons unless they embraced lichdom. During one of the most severe Draco Rages witnessed on Toril, Tiamat resurrected Shazar, Gastanius, and Scuthosan to serve as emissaries, enabling her to consolidate and expand her influence in Chesenta, Mulhorand, Threskel, and Unther. Following the demise of Samister and the cessation of the high magic sustaining the Draco Rage mythal, Tiamat faced an invasion led by Bahamut, targeting her domain in Dragoniri. The destruction of the Draco Rage mythal marked the prophesied turning of the Great Cycle, reigniting religious fervor among dragons absent since the onset of the Dragonfall War. Consequently, Tiamat gathered new converts among the draconic populace. In 1374, Faerun experienced lightning storms and meteor showers, prompting Bahamut and Tiamat to instruct their followers to locate specific sites containing dragon eggs. Unfortunately for Bahamut, Tiamat's adherents proved more adept at retrieving the eggs, which were brought to Unthalas in preparation for the impending conflict of the Dragonfall War. Tiamat primarily directed her newfound forces toward conquering the eastern regions, although this endeavor proved to be more challenging than anticipated. Only Chazar achieved success, solidifying his rule in Chesenta, while Mulharan seized control of Unther. Her tentative ally, Alaskar Banastos, governed Threskel and permitted Tiamat's church to establish a stronghold there. Additionally, a short-lived yet formidable cult of humanoid zealots in the Wormbones took up her cause. However, setbacks outnumbered her victories. During the Spell Plague, Entropy ceased to function as a conduit for communication spells, resulting in the loss of her power base in Luthchek. Additionally, the dissolution of her absorbed realm in the Dragoniri during the Spell Plague led to Azurul's severely injured body falling into the clutches of Bane. Timon Shabar's relocation from Aber to Toril caused some of Tiamat's strongest bastions of faith to vanish overnight, replaced by individuals who had become staunch adversaries. In 1479, Chazar succeeded in conquering Threskel, only to be drawn into a fatal conflict with the Aberan nation of Timanther. With her most formidable servant deceased and her forces beginning to falter, the Dragonfall War reached a standstill. In Banehold, Bane realized that Azurul served merely as a vessel for Tiamat and subsequently enslaved it. Although incensed, Tiamat refrained from immediate retaliation against her adversary, instead faithfully serving Bane despite his harassment. During this period, Tiamat uncovered Bane's secrets and relayed them to Asmodeus. Sometime in the ensuing decade, Tiamat seized an opportunity, extracting Azurul from Banehold along with a substantial portion of Bane's divine energy. She utilized this energy to restore Azurul's fractured form and augment her own divine might. Pleased with her actions, Asmodeus extended an offer for her to reclaim the rulership of Avernus. However, to avoid disappointing the Lord of the Nine Hells once more, and to prevent a clash with Bel, Tiamat declined, proposing instead to serve as Asmodeus' champion and eradicate all who oppose him. Meanwhile, she covertly aided Zariel counteract Bel's growing influence. Despite her efforts, Tiamat found herself bound by agreements in the Hells, ultimately falling under Bel's direct compulsion. Her brief resistance afforded her insight into Bel's mind, revealing Asmodeus' instructions to detain her in her divine realm to curb her ambitions. Feeling betrayed and enraged, Tiamat instructed her followers in the Cult of the Dragon to assemble the Mask of the Dragon Queen, enabling her to escape from Avernus to Toril. Although the cult's leader, Severin Silrajan, successfully constructed the mask and transported Tiamat's temple from her Avernian realm to the Well of Dragons, they were ultimately defeated, and Tiamat was banished back to the Nine Hells. Following Tiamat's tenure, Zariel assumed control of Avernus until her inevitable betrayal by Bel. During Bel's reign, Asmodeus enlisted Tiamat to clandestinely aid Zariel, a move orchestrated with Bel to prevent his growing influence, effectively ensnaring Tiamat within Avernus, making her a captive of sorts. Subsequently, Bel fell out of favor with Asmodeus due to his failure to effectively fend off a demonic incursion into Avernus. With Bel's demotion, Zariel reclaimed her position as the Lord of the First. Bel was relegated to serving as Zariel's advisor and remains one of her principal lieutenants, biding his time for an opportunity to reclaim his former title. Upon her return to power, Zariel, still seething from her previous vulnerability to Tiamat's influence, allied with Severin Silrajan and a cadre of Red Wizards of Thay to facilitate Tiamat's departure from Avernus. Abishai, known as Scaly Devils, serve the Queen of Chromatic Dragons, Tiamat. They fulfill various roles, including guarding and escorting captives in the Nine Hells, where they administer torture and corrupt mortals. Typically regarded as the lowest-ranking Lesser Batezu, Abishai resemble gothic gargoyles with their thin, clawed bodies, large bat-like wings, and prehensile tails equipped with hidden barbs. They have slanted eyes, fanged jaws, small horns, snake-like hair, and pointed ears. Their presence is accompanied by the scent of vinegar and a notable increase in the temperature of the surrounding air. Abishai come in 5 colors: red, white, black, green, and blue, but their scales are duller than those of true chromatic dragons. They vary in size, but generally stand shorter to slightly taller than humans. They are proud devils who consider themselves the purest offspring of Tiamat, viewing themselves as superior both to her followers on the material plane and other Barbazu. They derive their philosophical beliefs and demeanor from their queen, pledging eternal allegiance to her. Their sense of rivalry extends not only to other devils, but also different types of Abishai. Due to their strong sense of class distinction, they only engage with Abishai of immediately higher or lower rank, albeit reluctantly. Despite their own low status and servitude, they take pleasure in tormenting Barbazu lower in the infernal hierarchy. Moreover, they have a clinical fascination with exploring the depths of mortal suffering. Abishai are naturally equipped with teeth, claws, and stingers for defense, with their tails causing various effects depending on their chromatic type. When grappling opponents, their scales and talons can inflict wounds. Although they can fly, they are clumsy and inept in the air, preferring to fight on the ground. Similar to other lower-ranking devils, they possess a slow but steady regeneration ability, except against holy water or holy weapons, which inflict particular pain on them. They have access to spells like Change Self, Command, Produce Flame, Pyrotechnics, and Scare, and can summon a few Abishai or a small force of lemurs for assistance. Before engaging in combat, they typically use illusion and charm abilities to weaken their adversaries. This may involve casting scare and suggestion spells to scatter large groups of enemies before launching a ground assault. Abishai function as both torturers and wardens in the 9 hells, particularly in the first 2 layers, overseeing captives from the Blood War and new arrivals, and directing prisoners to appropriate locations. They commonly operate in groups known as wings, consisting of 2 or 3 Abishai, tasked with hunting down escapees from Hell's prisons. Whales, comprising 3 to 12 Abishai, manage prison compounds and guard numerous captives. Outside of prison duties, Abishai serve as low-ranking soldiers in the Blood War, joining other devils in large legions to combat demons and other invaders. Solitary Abishai are often tasked with messaging or scouting missions. Individuals are tasked with enticing and corrupting mortals, using gold, gems, and magical items, often possessing significant resources despite their low rank. Mortals who agree to their vile pacts are often deceived, as the magic bestowed by Abishai is so powerful that inexperienced users often lose control. Weaker Abishai are frequently summoned, providing ample opportunities to seduce mortals with promises of power. They may also masquerade as more powerful Barbazu to entice willing mortals to Baator. Contrary to their dragon-like nature, Abishai do not personally value gemstones, instead investing their wealth in protective magical items, potions, and coins. Occasionally they deliver gems to higher-ranking devils. Tiamat employs Abishai as her emissaries, using them as her personal representatives. Lesser servants convey messages to her worshippers, lead small cults on sensitive missions, or perform other menial tasks, while higher-ranking Abishai lead larger groups, act as assassins, or serve in her personal legions. They willingly collaborate with mortal dragon spawn, often holding positions of influence among them. While Tiamat's mortal spawn aim to dominate the material plane, Abishai represent her influence within Hell. Tiamat's servants demonstrate fanatical loyalty, willing to die for her despite her indifference to their existence. This disregard motivates them to earn her attention through exceptional service. The arrogance displayed by Abishai towards others stems partially from their inferiority complex, influenced by Tiamat's greed and the disdain shown by most other devils toward their breed. Operating outside of the typical hierarchy, ultimately they only answer to Tiamat and her jailer, Asmodeus. While other archdevils technically have authority over them, their commands are seldom issued due to the difficulty in discerning whose orders a given Abishai is following. Crossing Tiamat is perilous, but defying the directives of Asmodeus would prove fatal. Despite Tiamat's abundant supply of Abishai, she permanently assigns some to other archdevils, even sharing the secrets of their physiology for them to produce their own. Most Abishai were once mortals who earned favor with the Dragon Queen in life, rewarded with a fiendish form. Non-dragon worshippers appear in her realm as souls before undergoing judgment. Those deemed worthy are transformed into white Abishai through a horrifying process, while the rest are sold to other devils in exchange for wealth. Those demoted from Spinagons to low-ranking Abishai are typically seen as lazy or incompetent, with the only path to redemption being a diligent effort to attain higher status. Some scholars mistakenly believe that Abishai must ascend through every rank before transitioning to a new form, possibly through aging. However, each breed of Abishai is a distinct devil type, capable of advancing directly to other forms like Barbazu, Kokrakon, Chiton, or even Arenyes if they excel. Abishai are somewhat detached from the infernal hierarchy, often remaining at their current station rather than pursuing the standard path of advancement. Kobolds display aggressive, insular behavior while being industrious, small humanoid dragon-like creatures. They excel in constructing traps, setting ambushes, and mining. They share distant relations with dragons and Urds. They have scaled skin ranging from reddish-brown to black, with burnt orange to red eyes. Their legs are sinewy and are built for agile movement. Possessing long clawed fingers and a crocodile-like jaw, they sport small white or tan horns atop their heads, along with rat-like tails. Often emanating the scent of wet dog and stagnant water, kobolds typically favor red or orange, albeit ragged attire. Resenting their short stature, kobolds harbor disdain towards members of other races who ridicule them for it. Many feel compelled to compensate for their size through humor or aggression. Naturally inclined to harbor animosity towards larger beings, they may display obedience when necessary, but always seek opportunities to express this resentment. The primary objective of the kobold race is territorial expansion. Unlike other races, which valorize heroes or feats of strength or military skill, kobold heroes are revered for their exceptional skills in trap setting, torture, and ambush. A pregnant female kobold typically lays her egg within a fortnight. Approximately 1 in every 10 pregnancies results in the laying of 2 eggs. Each egg requires around 2 months of incubation, yet the newly hatched kobold can walk within mere hours. The eggs are remarkably resilient, allowing the young inside to survive even if the shell breaks up to 15 days prematurely. Kobold offspring mature rapidly, reaching young adulthood within 6 years. Occasionally, rare kobold offspring are born with wings, while others exhibit dragonrod traits, indicating descent from a specific color of draconic ancestor. Dragonrod eggs can be identified by specks of the dragon's color on the shell, which increase in number throughout the incubation period. Though winged kobolds are often looked down upon by their peers, tradition dictates that dragonrod eggs are to be taken to a sacred hatching site, ensuring the dragonrod kobolds raised above ground can learn to utilize their wings if capable of flight. Similar to other reptiles, kobolds undergo periodic skin shedding. While a growing kobold might shed as frequently as once a week, a mature one typically sheds once per season. Unlike snakes, kobolds do not shed their entire skin at once. Rather, they shed portions of it gradually, akin to lizards. This process is often hastened through rubbing. Following shedding, bitter leaf is commonly applied to assist the new scales in gaining strength and luster. At some point, kobolds discovered the means to domesticate dire weasels for use as guards and hunters. This led to the emergence of lycanthropic kobold dire wereweasels. Approximately 1 in 10,000 kobolds naturally possesses lycanthropic traits in this manner. All kobolds possess dark vision and are particularly sensitive to bright light. They rely on their cunning and sheer numerical advantage to overcome adversaries. They prefer setting traps or laying ambushes, engaging directly with a weakened foe only as a last resort. If their numbers dwindle to less than a 2-to-1 advantage, they typically opt for retreat. Kobold traps encompass spike pits, trap wires, flaming oil, and poisonous vermin. They harbor such animosity towards gnomes that they will attack them on sight. Kobolds typically plunder whatever treasures they can from their vanquished foes. Occasionally, kobolds may opt to enslave their adversaries, with the possibility of selling them off, unless they happen to be gnomes, who kobolds will invariably kill but never consume. They inhabit dark environments, preferably underground or dense forests, dwelling in tribal communities. Their dwellings often suffer from overcrowding, prompting tribes to divide into smaller factions when their numbers swell. This overcrowding eliminates notions of privacy, leading kobolds to sleep in communal areas where nudity is not considered shameful or offensive, even among mixed genders. While kobolds may wear clothing for practical or ceremonial purposes, it is not out of modesty. The prevalent overcrowding frequently sparks conflicts, with disputes often resolved through non-lethal combat between individuals, preventing the formation of deep-seated divisions or grudges within their society. They hold authority figures in high regard and demonstrate diligent obedience, particularly when their leader aligns with lawful evil principles. Kobolds naturally lean towards sorcery. They have a lifespan of up to 135 years, with dragonrod kobolds potentially living even longer. Although similar to dragons, Kobolds are cold-blooded creatures, unlike dragons, which have warm blood. Consequently, they are vulnerable to cold temperatures, particularly when exposed suddenly. They enjoy swimming and often congregate for communal bathing, especially following a shedding period. They devote considerable attention to grooming their claws and teeth, using smooth stones to polish their claws and chewing on roots to clean their teeth. While each kobold values its individual life, the welfare of the tribe takes precedence. They perceive the success of their tribe as their own success. Kobolds do not adhere to monogamous relationships, prioritizing reproduction. They select mates based on practical considerations rather than love or emotions, viewing mating as a pragmatic rather than emotional endeavor. They communicate in Yip-Yak, a variation of the Draconic language characterized by a yipping accent. Some kobolds are also proficient in Undercommon. Renowned for their mining skills, they often carve out layers directly from rock formations. Mining is a meticulously planned and executed endeavor, leaving nothing to chance. Divination magic aids in locating ore and mineral deposits. A significant portion of a kobold tribe typically consists of miners. Each family group is responsible for excavating its own chamber, adorning the walls with a chronicle of the family's history and pictures. Trap making is considered the pinnacle of artistry among kobolds. The construction of inventive and cunning traps distinguishes a skilled trap maker. Another form of artistic expression is the depiction of the tribe's history on the walls of designated chambers within every layer. They derive pleasure from fashioning jewelry using the gems and precious metals they unearth during mining. They often display possessiveness over personal jewelry collections, investing considerable effort in crafting exquisite pieces, unlike other functional items where they prioritize utility over aesthetics. The majority of kobolds work as miners, typically attired in sleeveless tunics and breeches. However, they take pleasure in donning more refined attire for special occasions. These outfits may include garments crafted from silk or leather, although tailored clothing is primarily reserved for leaders. Clothing often complements the wearer's eyes, with orange or red dyes commonly used. Some garments may be dyed to signify the wearer's allegiance to a specific type of dragon. Kobolds frequently forego footwear due to the necessary dexterity within their feet, as their tough soles can withstand most surfaces. With ample access to gemstones from their mining endeavors, kobolds embellish their clothing. They have an omnivorous diet, consuming both plants and animals, and they won't hesitate to eat intelligent beings if the opportunity arises. When faced with desperate circumstances, they can ingest nearly anything, including tree bark and bone. Thanks to their cold-blooded nature, kobolds in warm environments can go for days without needing to eat. Harboring intense animosity towards nearly all other humanoid races, they derive pleasure from killing and torturing them, with a particular disdain for brownies, gnomes, pixies, and sprites. Kurtulmak, the kobold's revered deity, is believed to grant them life and teach them survival tactics centered around theft, looting, and plundering. Kobolds engage in perpetual conflict with gnomes for territory, much to Kurtulmak's fury, as the more organized gnomes typically prevail. It is said that kobolds who aid their tribe's survival are reincarnated by Kurtulmak into one of the tribe's eggs. A sworn adversary of Garl Glittergold and other gnome deities, Kurtulmak also opposes the Erd god, Kuraulyek. Elevated to divinity by the dragon Asgaroth, Kurtulmak avoids infernal politics and steers clear of beings more powerful than himself. Despite the various archdukes seeking his alliance, he cunningly accepts their aid only to deceive and rob them, all while pretending to be their ally in the power struggles. Kurtulmak seldom acknowledges his followers and the existence of other inhabitants on his plane, and when pressed, he advises them to emulate his approach to these uncontrolled forces. In the historical account found in the Dragon Tyrant's treatise, Kurtulmak is described as the earliest kobold and the first of the dragonkin. Around -24,500, he led the kobold nation, Darastrix Hurthi, a vast estate serving the green dragon, Kae Sanjak, their creator. When the kobolds began enslaving newly formed gnomes and stealing gemstones containing their unborn souls, Garl Glittergold intervened by causing the collapse of the mountain where the nation was situated. This event, which led to the formation of the Shadow Sea in Netheril, resulted in the deaths of most kobolds, including Kurtulmak. Kae Sanjak, driven mad by the initial rage of dragons, slew many survivors. Although the dragonrod kobold Kuraulyek was tasked with alerting his people of the dragon's return, he instead fled with his Urds, settling in what later became the Thunder Peaks. In an attempt to rectify the devastation wrought by his offspring, the dragon god Asgaroth elevated Kurtulmak to divine status. Despite Kurtulmak's animosity towards Kuraulyek for perceived betrayal, Asgaroth also defied Kuraulyek, ensuring that remaining kobolds and Urds would have divine protectors to guide them. However, this account's accuracy may be questionable, as alternate sources date the first Rage of Dragons 500 years prior to the Urd's creation. The ascent of Kurtulmak to divine status is the most revered tale within Kobold Society, although nuances may vary across tribes in its retelling. It appears to corroborate certain aspects outlined in the Dragon Tyrant's treaties, albeit with noticeable bias in favor of the kobolds and their deity while portraying their gnome adversaries in a caricatured light. According to the legend, Kurtulmak emerged as the inaugural kobold, towering above his kin as their esteemed leader. Devoted to his creator, the dragon Kaisenjak, Kurtulmak ingeniously devised the pickaxe, delved into sorcery, and minted gold coins bearing his mistress's likeness, enriching her beyond measure. As a reward for his exceptional service, the dragon liberated Kurtulmak and his kobold brethren. Guided by their valiant leader, they established their own domain, unearthed unparalleled riches through an advanced mine, and erected a stronghold deemed worthy of dragons. Allegedly, envy consumed the gnome deity Garl Glittergold, who, overshadowed by the kobolds' achievements, callously razed their fortress, massacring its inhabitants. While the gods seethed with anger, only Asgaroth, the ninefold dragon, extended compassion to the kobolds, seeking reparation on their behalf. Witnessing Kurtulmak's tenacious spirit amidst the rubble, Asgaroth presented him with a choice: to either reclaim life with the strength to rebuild, or ascend divinity, becoming the eternal hero of his people. In another myth, it's recounted that Garl Glittergold pilfered a treasure from Tiamat's hoard, prompting the dragon goddess to dispatch Kurtulmak for its retrieval. Tragically, the trickster deity ensnared Kurtulmak within a labyrinthine cave system, from which Garl himself narrowly escaped before sealing it shut, consigning Kurtulmak to eternal entrapment. Yet another tale suggests that Kurtulmak purloined the gift of sorcery from a dragon deity, bestowing it upon his kin. Draukari serves as the divine realm governed by Kurtulmak, the patron deity of the kobolds. Kurtulmak meticulously oversees the cavernous expanse of Draukari, not only as the protector of his kobold followers, but also as an orchestrator of battles within its depths. Violence is not confined to external threats, rather it is celebrated within his realm, where glorious bloodshed and frenzied pursuits through the tunnels hold paramount importance. Vengeance and riches are coveted, while other pursuits are deemed insignificant. Within this afterlife for kobolds, life and death hold little value. The pervasive odor of death permeates the central halls, carried through the tunnels by the breeze. Life is harsh, fleeting, and characterized by suffering. Pain is deemed inevitable, but denizens striving to inflict it upon others whenever possible. In addition to the pursuit of blood, wealth, and retribution, the destruction of gnomes is a primary focus within Draukari. The presence of a gnome within Kurtulmak's realm triggers an immediate and collective rage known as the Gnome Smasher, felt by all inhabitants. They swiftly converge on the intruder's location, relentlessly hunting down the unfortunate gnome from that point onward. Draukari lies entirely underground, comprising an extensive labyrinth of narrow passages, tunnels, and catacombs. Navigating this realm poses minimal challenges for kobolds, but proves arduous for taller beings who must crawl through the mud, often concealing unpleasant surprises, while the narrow tunnels hinder their ability to wield weapons effectively. Non-natives easily lose their way without guidance or a means to maintain their course, sometimes spending hours before rediscovering familiar terrain. Additionally, the realm can be inherently disagreeable. Blood seeps from the surface, drenching its inhabitants, while a repulsive reptilian stench, overpowering to non-kobold senses, permeates the environment. Draukari is situated beneath Avernus, near the Pillar of Skulls and along the banks of the River Blood. A small cave descends thousands of feet, providing access to the realm. Occasionally, Bargrivyek, the goblinoid deity of territory and cooperation, leads his goblin armies on raids to demonstrate the invincibility of goblindom when unified. Draukari's towns sprawl outward from a massive central cavern, resembling colossal warrens interconnected by crawl spaces. The largest documented warren houses a fluctuating population exceeding 40,000, with clan chieftains engaged in perpetual internal power struggles. The primary denizens of Draukari are fiendish kobold petitioners, bestowed by Kurtulmak with vivid recollection of their mortal lives and idealized kobold forms as necessary. Kurtulmak abstains from infernal politics, dedicating himself instead to fulfilling his petitioner's promised afterlife. While life in Draukari may seem an unenticing reward, petitioners find their gifts deeply gratifying, considering the realm a paradise. The blood that coats them serves as a lubricant, facilitating their movement through crowded spaces, while their unerring sense of direction instills confidence in navigation, and they are spared from hunger. Yet the constant influx of kobolds from multiple prime material plane worlds leads to periodic overcrowding, prompting fiendish civil wars that purge the weakest and provide respite for the strongest before the cycle repeats. Despite this, kobold clans within the caverns perpetually strategize for warfare and seek vengeance against rival clans, often employing travelers to gain an advantage over their adversaries. Kobolds residing in Draukari possess the freedom to traverse Avernus, yet they must proceed cautiously, mindful of the myriad rules and regulations of Baator. Violating any of these decrees could result in interception by devils, leading to the stripping of identity akin to any other soul. Despite the risks, kobolds are willing to venture beyond their realm and even the Nine Hells entirely in pursuit of gnomes, provided with a location. While recognizing the apparent injustice of Baator's ordinances, Kurtulmak and other deities bound by lawful inclinations must admonish departing petitioners to abide by the laws and resist temptations presented by devils. Armies from Avernus, particularly those comprised of weaker Barbazu, refrain from entering Draukari due to the swift retribution exacted by a vigilant Kurtulmak. Additionally, thieves are unwelcome in the realm, as kobolds excel in sapping and mining, producing coveted gems sought after by the highest bidders, typically Baatorians. Consequently, attempting to pilfer these gems is deemed a less viable option compared to purchasing them. The ancestral influence on a dragonrod kobold runs deep, granting them several abilities typically associated only with true dragons. They possess immunity to magic that induces sleep or paralysis, and they enjoy significantly extended lifespans compared to ordinary kobolds, with those descended from metallic dragons often surpassing those with chromatic ancestry. Furthermore, they do not experience physical deterioration due to aging. Within Kobold Society, a dragonrod kobold is regarded as a blessing, symbolizing their esteemed lineage and offering substantial benefits to the entire tribe. Upon the discovery of a dragonrod egg within a kobold tribe, special arrangements must be made. Whether through pilgrimage to a destined site or access to a suitable location, dragonrod kobolds must be raised in environments conducive to proper flight, often in above-ground areas rarely frequented by ordinary kobolds. Despite not all dragonrod kobolds possessing the ability to fly, the potential is deemed significant enough to warrant such a journey as necessary. Kobold mythology asserts that their race descends directly from true dragons. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence supporting this belief is the rare occurrence of a dragonrod kobold hatchling. In ancient times, dragons reportedly interbred with kobolds to produce offspring capable of regulating the kobold population. Urds, also known as Urd kobolds or winged kobolds, share a distant kinship with kobolds, boasting flight capabilities attributed to their bat-like wings. The term Urd is simply the draconic word for wing, encompassing both first-generation winged kobolds hatched from kobold mothers' eggs and their subsequent offspring. Physically, Urds are delicate beings, adorned with scales ranging from yellow to red and adorned with a pair of white horns. In the air, Urds exhibit remarkable speed and agility, capable of gliding across vast distances. However, their terrestrial locomotion is less elegant, requiring them to lean forward to compensate for the weight of their sizable wings, resulting in a somewhat awkward gait that involves partial hopping. While Urds typically eschew elaborate attire, they often embellish their bodies with natural adornments, such as bones or fruit, reflecting their individuality. Urd societies tend to lean towards evil, characterized by aggression and notably low intelligence, often displaying skittish behavior. Precious metals like gold hold little value to them due to their impracticality for flight, but they do appreciate fine leathers and are willing to engage in trade for it. Urd communities typically consist of extensive familial groups known as gens, each comprising over 300 adult members, along with an equal number of eggs and younglings, all overseen by a hereditary chieftain, whether male or female. Most Urd chieftains possess a magical leather armor. These gen layers are typically located within caverns, often in secluded mountainous regions. Each layer consists of a central chamber, with smaller sections dedicated to housing eggs and juveniles. Approximately 70% of Urd caves are home to giant bats, which serve as protectors, while at least one Urd shaman in each layer can communicate with these bats using the Speak with Animals spell. Certain gens may be under the sway of dragons or wizards who promise sustenance in exchange for loyalty from these diminutive beings. The majority of Urds possess a limited vocabulary encompassing Common, Draconic, and their own native tongue, as well as the language of kobolds. Despite their potential to live for over a century, the average life expectancy for Urds is approximately 50 years. They are frequent targets for various large aerial predators, including dragons, hippogriffs, and manticores. They are equipped with dark vision, allowing them to see in low light conditions. Being omnivorous creatures, Urds have diverse diets influenced by their gen's location and cultural tendencies. Their food sources range from small fruits to game of varying sizes, and in more aggressive cultures, they may even prey upon other humanoid beings like goblins, humans, or elves. In battles, Urds typically favor nocturnal assaults, utilizing the cover of darkness to drop sharp stones from far above onto their targets. They exhibit adeptness in this tactic, aided by their dark vision for spotting prey. Roughly 3/4 of Urds carry these rock bombs, while the remainder often arm themselves with light spears, suitable for throwing like javelins. However, due to their cowardly nature and susceptibility to being startled, particularly by bright lights or large flying adversaries, Urds seldom initiate attacks unless they significantly outnumber unarmored foes of human size or smaller. Conversely, they display aggression towards weaker adversaries such as kobolds or goblins. Urd bands consisting of around 20 individuals are led by sub-chieftains, while larger groups exceeding 100 individuals are referred to as flocks and are under the leadership of the gen's chieftain. Occasionally, mercenary Urds serving other creatures may be deployed as messenger or scouting units, but they are seldom relied upon in large-scale battles due to their unpredictable nature. In the mythology of both kobolds and goblinoids, the creation of Urds is attributed to their deity Kuraulyek. According to legend, Kuraulyek stole a magical pair of wings from Sirenita, the goddess of the Aarakocra, and bestowed them upon newly created beings to rival the kobold race, an act perceived as a betrayal against the kobold god Kurtulmak. The other origin myth emerges from the treaties of historical dragon tyrants covered previously. By the 14th century, Urds are commonly regarded as a distinct race from kobolds, although even into the late 15th century, Urds continue to be born sporadically to kobold mothers. These hatchlings are viewed as blessings from Tiamat, yet the offspring are often ostracized by other kobolds, who perceive Urds as the chosen of the betrayer Kuraulyek. Kuraulyek serves as the patron deity of Urds, and according to legend, was once the mortal leader of their kind. His form appears as either a blue-skinned dragonrod kobold or a blue-skinned Urd adorned with feathered wings. Characterized as deeply cowardly, Kuraulyek holds the status of a demigod. In addition to his spellcasting abilities, avatars of Kuraulyek possess the capability to take flight using magical wings. They can pluck between 1 to 4 feathers from their wings daily, transforming them into air elementals that serve Kuraulyek for an hour. His realm, known as Ord's Rest, occupies a somber cavern situated within a hillside in Oinos, in the Abyss. The lair is defended by a contingent of monstrous mobats and fiendish direbats. Rarely venturing from his desolate abode, Kuraulyek has remained in seclusion since his arrival. He rarely dispatches his single avatar beyond his domain unless his chosen race faces an imminent danger on the material plane. Instead, he often sends a sizable mobat imbued with minor magical abilities, such as cause fear, to aid one of his priests. Direct confrontation occurs only when unavoidable, particularly in defense of Urds facing attacks within their homes. Kuraulyek's seclusion stems from his profound fear of Kurtulmak, a vigilant and jealous deity known for keeping a close eye on other gods. Kuraulyek lives in constant dread of Kurtulmak seeking retribution, thus he never dares to venture beyond the confines of his cave. Moreover, he deliberately avoids all contact with the other deities and inhabitants of the Grey Wastes. Despite his isolation, like the kobold gods, Kuraulyek harbors an enmity towards the gnomish pantheon. Kuraulyek lacks specialized priests, possessing only shamans who are tasked with 2 specific duties. Their primary responsibility is to combat Urds who revere Kurtulmak, aiming to quash such misguided worship. Additionally, they are charged with aiding in the defense of their gens. Common myths surrounding Kuraulyek, shared among kobolds and Urds alike, depict him as a former subordinate godling of Kurtulmak who betrayed him in some manner. In one prevalent tale, he pilfered dragon wings from Kurtulmak before departing to create the Urds as rivals to the kobolds. According to the historical treaties of the dragon tyrants, the god Asgaroth intervened during the conflict with Kurtulmak, who learned of Kuraulyek's treachery and the catastrophic consequences of his abandonment. To shield Kuraulyek from the wrath of the newly deified Kurtulmak, Asgaroth also bestowed divine status upon the blue dragonrod kobold, enabling him to escape to other planes. There Kuraulyek has remained, concealed in abject terror, evading his former master's pursuit ever since. Deacon Scalesinger was a mailed kobold bard and adventurer who made his mark on the north during the 1370s. He was distinguished by his gray-scaled appearance and was frequently observed with pen and paper in hand alongside his trusty lute. As a proficient bard, Deacon demonstrated exceptional skill with the lute and showcased his artistic talents through his writing endeavors. Notably, he possessed an almost instinctual grasp of the scent-based Zariel language, a trait shared with certain other draconic creatures. As a member of the Dripping Fang clan, he served under the leadership of Timo Ferrar. His master found great amusement in his tales and musical performances. Under Timo Ferrar's guidance, Deacon honed his skills in preparation for assuming leadership of the clan and delving into sorcery. Despite his training, he harbored aspirations beyond clan leadership, desiring to become a skald instead. Thus, when presented with the chance, he agreed to exchange the stolen artifact, the tower statue, with Drogan Droganson's apprentice in exchange for negotiating his release from Timo Ferrar's service. Embracing his newfound freedom, Deacon became the apprentice's henchman, chronicling their exploits in the Anarok Desert. Their adventures led them to the depths of the Underdark in Cania, culminating in their triumph over the Archdevil, Mephistopheles. Following a hiatus from adventuring, Deacon transitioned into a career as an author, publishing accounts of his numerous exploits. Settling in Neverwinter, he opened up a shop in the Merchant Quarter, selling items acquired during his travels. Deacon's renown in the area eventually earned him the honor of having a street named after him, Deacon Street, in the Protector's Enclave of Neverwinter. In his later years, Deacon returned to his tribe, eventually assuming leadership and establishing the realm's first joint human and kobold community. Upon his passing, he was mourned by many, yet his legacy endured through a new generation of scale singers eager to embark on adventures of their own. Una served as a kobold specialty priest, known as a Morning Lord devoted to Lathander during the late 14th century. Her striking blue eyes are complemented by the priestly robes adorned in honor of her deity. Una is particularly sensitive to ridicule and meticulously selects her attire, mindful of the potential absurdity of a kobold dressed as a cleric. She possesses a quick wit and lively demeanor, well versed in etiquette and skilled in the arts of healing and herbalism. Una radiates optimism and enthusiasm, harboring aspirations of donning gleaming plate armor someday. She diligently saves every spare coin with the intention of eventually purchasing a custom-forged set, while allocating the remainder of her funds to support her temple. In her role as a Morning Lord, Una is endowed with the ability to utilize all spells and miracles bestowed upon her by her faith. She possesses the capability to turn undead, and possesses a distinct talent for conjuring fairy fire. Additionally, being a kobold grants Una the innate ability of infravision. Her weaponry of choice includes clubs and maces, complemented by her defense with an enchanted shield bestowed upon her by the high priest of her temple. Among her cherished possessions, Una holds a deer recorder that she readily plays at any opportunity. Her love for music fuels her desire to seek out a mentor who can guide her in mastering additional musical instruments. Una's calling emerged when a group of Lathandrian clergy fell into the hands of a kobold band. Seizing an opportunity, the young kobold infiltrated the captor's hut and proposed a deal. She would facilitate their escape in exchange for instruction in the priestly ways of the Morning Lord. Moved by her author, one of the priests pledged to escort Una to a temple where she could learn Lathander's teachings. Gnawing through their bindings, Una liberated the trio and enabled their freedom. True to their word, the Lathandrians welcomed Una and introduced her to their temple's high priest. Impressed by her determination, the high priest agreed to mentor the kobold, despite skepticism from some who questioned the naturalness of her ascent within the clergy due to her race. Nonetheless, Una's fellow priests staunchly defend her against such prejudices. Upon successfully repelling a vampire with her divine abilities, Una's readiness for departure from the temple was declared by the high priest. Seeking to spread Lathander's light through adventure, the temple issued a call for a group of willing adventurers to accompany her. Bargrivyek serves as the goblinoid deity promoting unity and collaboration among goblinoid races and tribes, earning him the title of Peacekeeper. Despite his efforts to foster teamwork, his focus on maintaining peace does not extend to fostering positive relationships between goblinoids and other races. Physically, Bargrivyek resembles a tall goblin with a prominent forehead, typically sporting a serene expression. Contrary to expectations from his title, Bargrivyek is characterized by an unyielding evil nature and expansionist tendencies like others in his militaristic pantheon. However, his approach to lawful evil is somewhat milder, leaning towards an organized cooperation for nefarious goals rather than outright tyranny. Bargrivyek values unity, duty, and discipline within his own people, recognizing the strategic advantage it provides for expansionist aims. He seeks strength and harmony among his followers, enabling them to wage war against enemies, particularly orcs, and disrupt the harmony of others. Bargrivyek possesses proficiency in both clerical magic and combat skills. His avatar can converse fluently in all languages spoken by humanoids and goblinoids, as well as utilize communication-oriented spells such as Whispering Wind and Speak with Animals. Additionally, he has the ability to instill fear. His preferred weapon is a flail with a white head. His avatar wields an enchanted flail, capable of stunning opponents. Bargrivyek's divine realm, known as the Peaceable Lands, is a somewhat ironic name given its true nature. It serves as a rigorous training ground located in Avernus, where goblin legions undergo intense regimens of training in calisthenics. Due to the ongoing conflict between goblins and orcs in Acheron, Bargrivyek plays a crucial role in maintaining peace between goblins and hobgoblins. Often acting as a mediator in their disputes, his responsibility involves minimizing the impact of conflicts within and between goblin and hobgoblin tribes for the greater good of all involved. He maintains a harmonious relationship with his immediate subordinate deity, Kuraulyek, as both share a common goal of establishing order among goblins and asserting their supremacy over others. However, his interactions with other members of the pantheon are marked by a sense of fearful obedience, particularly towards Nomag Gaia, whom he dutifully serves to avoid provoking displeasure. Nomag Gaia harbors a deep-seated disdain for Bargrivyek, viewing him as a cowardly weakling and undesired second-in-command in hobgoblin folklore. Despite Nomag Gaia's desire to replace Bargrivyek with a more aligned successor, he refrains from doing so to avoid angering Maglubiet, especially after the destruction of his own pantheon. Bargrivyek's position is maintained at the behest of Maglubiet, with whom his relationship mirrors that of Nomag Gaia. Maglubiet allows Bargrivyek to act as a mediator out of necessity and due to their shared philosophies, albeit with a sense of reluctant tolerance. However, Hrugek, the cunning god of the bugbear pantheon, actively opposes Bargrivyek and attempts to turn Maglubiet against him to keep goblins and hobgoblins divided for the benefit of his own people. Interestingly, Bargrivyek faces less opposition from external foes than from within his own pantheon, where specific deities hold animosity towards him. He engages in skirmishes with Kurtulmak, leading raids against his kobold minions in Draukari within Avernus to showcase the strength of a united goblin kind. Additionally, Bogtru, the orc god, seeks a rematch with Bargrivyek, following a previous conflict, but lacks the complexity to engage in intricate rivalries with other deities. Due to his fear of displeasing his superiors, Bargrivyek only dispatches his avatar when a goblin tribe has a significant tribal gathering. It falls upon his priests, known as peacemakers, to handle the majority of conflicts among goblinoids. Their approach typically involves instigating or nurturing animosity towards external enemies, redirecting the tribe's anger. In hobgoblin societies, priests serve as the equivalent of law enforcement, responsible for assessing the honor of their peers and acting as disciplinarians and mediators. Despite Nomag Gaia's predominant reverence, Bargrivyek's hobgoblin followers are still accorded respect regardless of their social standing. Additionally, Bargrivyek's faithful are tasked with expanding goblin tribes wherever possible, with priests receiving rewards for establishing new settlements above ground, as Bargrivyek eagerly awaits the goblins' emergence to the surface. As a deity associated with territory and communication, his omens often manifest as distant atmospheric phenomena, such as falling stars indicating new regions for settlement. His priests are required to possess both intelligence and wisdom, with a greater emphasis on the former. They often wield blunt instruments, particularly flails dipped in white paint, as symbols of their devotion. Followers of the god are granted enchanting spells like Friend and Charm Person, as well as abilities focused on communication, such as the Whispering Wind spell and the ability to learn additional languages. He has several known proxies, typically male clerics or fighters aligned with lawful evil. One notable proxy is Gruchak Spine Snapper, a goblin renowned for his ruthless brutality, devoid of any subtlety, akin to that of devils. Once comprising numerous deities, the hobgoblin pantheon suffered decimation by Maglubiet in ancient times, with their names fading into obscurity. Bargrivyek is thought to have survived this purge alongside Nomag Gaia, assuming the role of his de facto deputy. In the year 1368, King Rogdok apprehended a wild mage named Adoy, who was venerated by goblins as a figure akin to Bargrivyek himself. Belhifet, who goes by the name Poquelin, is a formidable devil hailing from the plane of Avernus and the Nine Hells. He represents himself as a colossal red-skinned demon towering over most humanoids. Despite his terrifying nature and deeds, Belhifet carries within himself a refined demeanor. He demonstrates unparalleled skill in deceiving and manipulating mortals of the Forgotten Realms, easily outwitting both adversaries and pawns in his schemes. In his realm on Avernus, he can unleash hellfire upon his enemies and teleport himself with explosive flare. A potent Baator, he possesses inherent protection against all physical harm and can only be injured by heavily enchanted weapons. The formidable fiend wields 2 colossal blades with unmatched ferocity whenever he engages in physical combat. Throughout his existence, he has consistently been driven by his pride. For centuries, he waged war against a singular adversary before seeking revenge upon his own plane of existence following his banishment. Belhifet harbors a long-standing feud with Yuk-Sonome, a Marlith from the Abyss. Their profound enmity led to Belhifet's expulsion from the 9 Hells. During his campaign against the 10 towns of Icewind Dale in the late 13th century, Belhifet perpetrated numerous vile deeds. He fathered offspring with mortal human and elven women, seduced a group of lieutenants to join his unholy cause, including the renegade elf Ilmadia Bariel, the drow sorcerer Malavan Despana, a bandit known as Marketh, and Sablik Tan, a red wizard of Thay. Belhifet claimed Ilmadia as his concubine, fathering twin Cambion offspring, Isser and Made. These half-fiends continued their father's legacy by sowing chaos and destruction in the frozen lands of the far north, serving under the banner of the godson Iactus Vim. A multitude of lesser fiends served Belhifet, acting as his agents on the prime material plane and defenders of the Basalt Tower, his domain in Avernus. One of his red Abishai assumed the deity of Reverend Brother Heffernan, serving as the infernal advisor to the Shining Lady, a part celestial military leader manipulated to be one of Belhifet's assets. Another fiend, an opportunistic Cornigon named Thrix the Profane, acts as the gatekeeper to Belhifet's tower. For millennia, he waged his vendetta against the Tanari Yuk-Sonome, driven solely by his desire for victory. Concerned that the conflict could spiral out of control, the Devil's superiors in the infernal hierarchy banished him to the planet Toril in the far north. Stranded in the icy wasteland around the year of the Cold Soul, 1281, he began plotting his revenge when contacted by a malevolent sentience far older than himself, emanating from the remnants of an artifact with aligned goals, the Crenshinabon, lost in the frigid north. Empowered by the artifact's influence, Belhifet schemed to amass a new infernal army from the 9 Hells of Baator. He aimed to utilize a dormant portal to the Hells located in Icewind Dale, sealed within Jared's Stone and hidden inside the Temple of Tempest in East Haven. By rallying monstrous creatures of the north and shattering the stone, he planned to gain the army he desired and regain access to Avernus. Disguised as a cleric of Ilmater named Poquelin, Belhifet attracted followers from an Ilmatari monastery led by Brother Perdiem. Twisting the minds of his new devotees into undead minions, Brother Poquelin established his Black Temple and an abandoned dwarven temple of Baronar Truesilver in Dorn's Deep. Using the power of the Crenshinabon, he recruited a monstrous army of goblinoids, orcs, and giants to conquer the north. Operating from Dorn's Deep, Belhifet soon discovered that Yuk-Sonome had pursued him to Toril after his exile, raising an army of Yuan-Ti in the fortress of the Dragon's Eye within the Spine of the World Mountains to eradicate her arch-nemesis. To hinder Yuk-Sonome, Belhifet employed the Crenshinabon to freeze the trails leading to the 10 towns of Icewind Dale. He also enlisted Craig Frostbeard and his frost giants to trigger avalanches, targeting locals who sought to investigate the situation. However, the demon's actions drew the attention of a group of meddling adventurers who ventured into Dragon's Eye and vanquished the demon from Toril, sending her back to the Abyss. Investigating further, the adventurers uncovered Belhifet's scheme and confronted Brother Poquelin in Dorn's Deep. Utilizing the power of the Crenshinabon once more, he erected a crystal tirith around the Temple Tempest in East Haven, securing Jared's Stone. Upon reaching Dorn's Deep, the adventurers confronted Belhifet. Although he managed to escape, he seized control of East Haven in preparation for opening the Gate of Baator. Belhifet also employed the Crenshinabon to seal the Temple of Tempest within Crystal Tirith. Despite his efforts, the heroes infiltrated the crystal towers surrounding the temple, just as Belhifet initiated the gate's opening. Everard sacrificed his life to reseal the portal, banishing Belhifet to Baator, where he would remain unable to tread upon Faerun for another 100 years. Around 30 years later, approximately in the year of storms 1310, the legacy of Belhifet resurfaced in the realms once more. His half-fiend offspring, Isir and Made, formed the Legion of the Chimera and unleashed chaos across Icewind Dale. Later in their lives, they allied with Belhifet in the Blood War. Despite his initial desire for revenge against the Hells for his exile to the mortal realm, he gradually came to view Avernus as his prison. He now eagerly awaits his return to the prime material plane, scheming to expedite his comeback. After nearly a century back in Avernus, Belhifet seized a second chance to unleash his hellish army upon the realms. When the young Waterhavian Aasimar Kalar Argent inadvertently bound herself to Belhifet's subjugation by reading from the Tome of the Nine, her uncle Aun offered his soul in exchange for hers. Years later, when Belhifet presented himself to the adult Kalar in the year of the Banner, 1368, and offered her a means to free her uncle, she readily accepted. Presenting herself as the Shining Lady to the people of the Sword Coast, Kalar emerged as a charismatic leader, promising to reclaim the souls lost in the Dragonspear Wars. With guidance from her advisor Hyfernan, Belhifet's Abishai servant, Kalar formed the Shining Crusade, a holy army that marched on Dragonspear Castle and attracted the attention of the Baalspawn hero Abdel Adrian. Using the blood of the godchild, Kalar opened a portal to Avernus beneath the Dragonspear Castle, granting Belhifet access to the realms once more. Although he succeeded in unleashing his horde of devils through the portal on the Sword Coast as he had done over a century earlier in Icewind Dale, Kalar Argent and Abdel Adrian's band of adventurers ventured into Avernus and assaulted the Basalt Tower. Finally confronted in his own plane of existence, Belhifet unleashed his infernal power against those who opposed him. He commanded his devils to attack the intruding mortals and engaged in a great battle on the roof of the Basalt Tower, ultimately being struck down by the heroes. Like all devils, Belhifet's final defeat within the Nine Hells led to his permanent demise. In the spring of the year of the Bloodbird, 1346, a portal to Avernus was constructed in the burial glen of Mithranor by Baneites loyal to the High Emperor of Mulmaster. However, the project fell under the influence of Gentarim agents, and also indirectly a group of Alhun residing in the nearby ruins. The Alhun orchestrated the portal's creation to spawn devils, thereby thwarting the local Faerûm from attacking the Liches while they scoured the city for magical artifacts. Although originally intended to be temporary, interference from Malkazid resulted in its permanence. The portal was ultimately sealed by the Knights of Mithranor in 1357. Nevertheless, the devils unleashed over the previous 11 years continued to plague the ruins until the Elven Crusade, led by Saver el-Miritar in 1374. Another portal to Avernus was established in Dragonspear Castle by a Kalashite mage following the trickery that led to the sacrifice of Deiros Dragonspear, the castle's founder. Zariel had long awaited a chance to retaliate against those who abandoned her during her failed invasion of Avernus. In the year of the seductive Cambion, 1444, an opportunity presented itself when a vampire lord seized control of El Turel and Thavis Krieg, a Tormite priest, cried out for aid to save his city. Zariel swiftly responded to his plea, offering him a deal he eagerly embraced. Granting Thabius the Solar Insidiator, also known as the Companion, a luminous sphere of holy light, Zariel vanquished the vampire lord's forces and restored El Turel to safety. Taking credit for the miraculous intervention, Thabius ascended to become the High Overseer of Elturgard, basking in the adulation as the city flourished. Yet he understood that the salvation came at a steep price, a price he would eventually pay in his own damnation. In the year of the Three Ships Sailing, 1492, after manipulating the political affairs to weaken Baldur's Gate and ensure his own security, Thabius witnessed the radiant sun provided by Zariel transform into a malevolent black orb, wrenching El Turel from the material plane and hurling it, along with its inhabitants, into Avernus. Despite damning an entire city, Zariel's grand scheme had only just begun. El Turel was but one target on her list of cities destined for the Hells. Beyond seeking vengeance, Zariel sees these cities as strategic assets in her efforts in the Blood War, having struck a deal with her devoted follower, Thalam Ravanthampur. Zariel orchestrated the downfall of Baldur's Gate, paving the way for its corruption and perhaps eventual descent into the Infernal Realm. Central to this plan is the Shield of the Hidden Lord, an artifact harboring Gargauth, which had long contributed to Baldur's Gate's moral decay and was instrumental in its impending doom. If not for the intensified assaults by demonic forces from the River Styx upon its emergence, El Turel and its devastated inhabitants would have swiftly fallen under Zariel's dominion. Despite her efforts to repel the demonic onslaught, the city was gradually being dragged down by chains into the Styx, risking permanent fusion with the Nine Hells. However, a band of adventurers intervened and prevented the city's total damnation. Yet even after El Turel was freed from its descent into the Styx and returned to the material plane, Zariel retains her position as the Archduchess of Avernus, and her plan to bring cities into the Hells likely continues. During a Founders' Day celebration in the 15th century, Zariel was summoned onto Waterdeep's Field of Triumph, where she unleashed a legion of devils to sow chaos. This led to a brief conflict resembling the Blood War, as demons were drawn by the presence of devils. Zariel hoped to enlist powerful adventurers to her own cause through either persuasion or coercion. However, a group of adventurers, under the command of Blackstaff, Bargrivyek, managed to restore order to the city and banish Zariel back to the Nine Hells. As the entrance to the Nine Hells, Avernus interacts most with the material plane and serves as the path from the rest of Baator to the world of Toril, the home of several lawful evil deities and the eternal battlefield of the Blood War. Even the rulership of this layer is contested through violence. Countless devils, each with their own origins and motivations, plot to travel to Faerun and subjugate all sentient life there. Still, many mortals believe themselves capable of harnessing the power of this hellish domain and venture into its flaming maw in the hopes of obtaining unimaginable power and wealth. Yet, like many before them, most end up consumed in the blood war or the schemes of the devils, forever damned by their hubris. Truly, it is one of the most violent, dangerous, and inhospitable places in all of the Forgotten Realms.